Welcome to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast with your host, legendary powerlifter and strength athlete, Chad Ikes. For most, the journey of strength starts in the gym, but should inevitably expand through all aspects of life. Join us as we discuss all things strength. Now, here's your host, Chad Ikes.
Hey everybody, we're back again. And I have another, I talk about this every time I have a guest because I have so many guests that I'm actually really excited about. This is another guest I'm really excited about. Today we have Marshall Johnson on, who, this is kind of bullcrap because I didn't really realize this till I punched up open powerlifting this morning. You actually out-totaled me. What the shit is that?
I was hoping that this would come out. Like I was never in my life gonna say I out-totaled Chad Ikes, but I was hoping one day he would realize it and bring. Thank you.
I opened it up and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, 1107 squat, right on. I go 782 bench, 854 deadlift. I mean, 2744. What the fuck?
I got you.
I'm canceling this podcast. And you actually did it at a way lighter body weight too.
Yeah,
you were actually only a 308.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
Yeah,
funny.
well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
No, that's awesome. Like I was trying to think when we met, and I think it was at one of the Learn to Trains, and you were actually coaching. And like, if the people that don't know you, like his wife is a great power lifter. His daughter Freya is like. Man, if she sticks with powerlifting, I love watching her videos because I actually show her videos to my clients and I'm like, look, this little girl can do it right. What the hell is your problem? Like, she has great technique and everything. I love watching those videos.
She hasn't learned how to do it wrong yet.
Well, I've said that because I bring up, when I'm teaching technique, a lot of times I go, listen, watch your kids. I go, they do everything right. The problem isn't that we need to learn the correct way. The problem is we need to stop fucking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And, but yeah, I think it was, cause I think your whole family was there at that one. Is that where you remember the first time we met?
I think it was, there was red shirts. It was red shirts that said empowerment. I think, it was definitely a Learn to Train the first time we met. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And from what I remember, we just kind of got along right away.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had watched all of your stuff for a long time, and I was a big fan. And it's one of those, it's one of those rare occasions where you actually meet somebody that you kind of look up to and like, and they're actually not an asshole. So that was pleasantly surprising. You're, what's the word? I can't think of the word. I just remember you trying to teach me how to bench with my feet out, and then from then on out, it was just, you were always trying to get me to bench with feet out, and I could never get it, or it just never worked. But you're just so persistent about, you were just driving home that bench with feet out. And I just remember that. I remember, felt like I was like disappointing you. Like I didn't want to tell you, like, okay, I get it. This works for you, but it doesn't work for me. You know what I mean? I remember that specifically.
Well, first of all, I'm pretty stubborn. And you need to get it down. And if you get it down and you go, man, it's just isn't right, then I'm like, okay, because one of the things I find, and it's interesting. I was looking forward to having you on because first of all, you have crazy numbers. Like you are an amazing power lifter. Right now, we've kind of both been going through some injuries, which I think there's some interesting things to talk about. And you coach, and you have your gym, and I have your Frossen Barbell. I have your shirt on. But I think that coaching's interesting because everybody wants to know, like, oh, what's the right way to do it? What's the right exercise? What's this? And I go, there's so many nutritional programs out there that all work for somebody. There's so many training programs out there that all work for somebody. And I go, if you're ever lucky enough to be one of the best in the world and you go to a competition and you look around you and you go, okay, well, the top 20 super heavyweights in the world are here. And you know what? None of us actually train the same. Yeah. So like there is no perfect one way. There's the perfect way for you. And that means you got to go through a process to figure that out because you're not just going to know.
No, and like to quote Stan Efferding, the best program is the one you'll adhere to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The best program is the one you'll do. Obviously, there'll be some tweaks along the way. You'll obviously have to do some things that you don't want to do, or at least live in some discomfort. But at the end of the day, whether it's you or a client, like the best program is the one that they will adhere to. You know what I mean? And then you just have to fine tune and tweak it, whether you're tricking them into doing stuff that you want them to do without them knowing it,
Mm-hmm.
or you just basically accept the fact that this has to be fun for this person because they're a hobby lifter, or this has to be fun for this person because it's more social, or they have to enjoy it to some capacity. But there's also people like us who were so tunnel visioned, like we were going to do whatever it took to get the end result. We didn't care about the discomfort if we didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand there's like 5 genres of people who you're going to coach, like, and that could be plus or minus 4 or 5, but there's all sorts of people lifting for different reasons, and you can't just go into it with this blanks. This one template of this is how I'm going to coach everybody. Like, he must have be like a psychologist, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
it's not just learning how to coach, it's learning how to talk to people and interact with people.
Yeah, I think one of the things coaches forget is the power of the mind and how big a role it has in it. Like you could give me 2 programs and I could go, man, I like this program a lot better. But depending on who I put there, if somebody hates the program and they don't think it's going to work, then it's probably not going to work. So like I think I just wrote an article for Elite. I forget what the hell I've written. And one of them was about programs. And one of my big things was like, the first thing, go through and find a program that makes sense to you. Find one that you can get behind and believe in. And like you said, you're not going to love every single part of it. But if it's a program overall that you believe in and you like, you're going to do way better just simply because of that. Just simply because you're going to have a more positive attitude. And I like to bring up like linear periodization. I personally hate linear periodization. I will train somebody on linear periodization because Ed Cohn's the GOAT, and Ed Cohn used linear periodization. But I also learned a lot of the things that I didn't like about it, and a lot of the reasons I didn't have as much success with it. After talking with Ed, I kind of went, oh, I didn't do it right. It wasn't that the program was the problem. I wasn't executing it properly. But when it came to conjugate, I'm like, ooh, max effort and speed? Yeah, I like that. I like those days. So like for me, mentally, it made more sense and I enjoyed it more. You go in and go, Chad, you get to go 85% today. I'm like, whatever. That bores me. So I'm not saying that program doesn't work. I'm just saying my mentality actually fit better with conjugate. And it made sense to me. That's why I leaned towards it. But then even when I went to conjugate and it wasn't working, at that point I became a lot smarter and I went, wait a minute, maybe it's not working because I'm not doing it right. And that's when I started talking to people and getting advice. But I mean, still, I think that mentality part of it. And if you pick a nutritional plan that you absolutely cannot stand, there's very little chance you're going to stick to it. I'd rather see a nutritional plan that maybe has a little more slack in it, but you're going to stick to it.
Yeah, a big part of that is education too. Like one of my major pet peeves with coaches is because I said so. I hate that answer.
Mm-hmm.
People who give that answer is because they don't know why they're having the person do it. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I've been in that position when I started. I've done the whole because I said so or because I did it, but then I slowly realized because I don't know why I'm having them do it. They're just doing it because I did it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I can't explain why it worked for me, but I slowly realized that when someone says because I said so, it's because they don't know why they're having you do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You have to educate them. You have to at least explain to them why they're doing it. If they know why they're doing it, it might be a strenuous assistance movement or cardio or conditioning or core work. If you explain to them the importance of it and what it's doing and how it's going to help them long term, that's going to help them accept it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what that does is that I call it being vested in your goals. If you're vested, if you put some blood, sweat, and thought into it, you're gonna be tied to it closer, and you're gonna stick to it closer. And if you go like we mentioned this a little bit before I started. A coach, to me, a coach is more of a guide, and you actually had a good, you said more like a GPS, where it's like, don't come to me expecting me to tell you every single thing that you need to do. Because first of all, I'm only working with you maybe 4 or 5 days a week for an hour and a half. There's a lot of shit you need to be doing on your own.
Oh yeah.
And if you come to me going, I'm not going to think about it, you just tell me what to do, then your training's actually just like a check mark. You're going, up, train today, check. Like, you don't even give a shit. If you come in and you're vested and you want to know and you want to understand, and maybe it's not the best business plan, but I want my clients to ask me questions. I want them to understand. Don't just follow what I say. Understand why I want you to do it. And that, then you're going to be like, oh shit, okay, this is why I need to do this. And this makes sense. So now you have that mental, the positivity to feed into it. Like even with like some of my older clients, I have one of my, she's 70 something years old. She's like, Chad, I got this pot out of the bottom of the stove and I did a perfect squat and I rooted my feet and I picked it up. And she goes, it was so easy. I'm not trying to make her into a world record. We're quality of life, but I still try to teach her and she understands and she asks questions. And then she'll bring up points that, hey, I rooted my feet, or I noticed I was doing this balance work. And if I root my feet, my balance is better too. And then there's thought into it.
The clients that don't want to think, those are actually the ideal clients. If you're one of these people online who just want to take as much money from the internet as you possibly can, and don't give any shits about what actually happens to the person, that's actually the ideal client, because them just checking that box, that's all you have to send. You just send them this blank slate piece of shit program, and they're just going to do it and be done, and you don't have to care anything about after sending it to them. Those are actually the ideal clients. And I don't understand why somebody gets into the business of helping people, and as coaching, that's what we're doing. We're helping people. We're just getting paid for our time and our effort. But I'll never understand why people get into the coaching business and trying to help people and they don't give a fuck about the person they're helping. Can I say that?
Yes.
Okay.
You can say anything on my podcast. I'm all about the truth.
Everybody's censoring fuck on YouTube now, so I don't know if I could say that.
Yeah, no, I think that like it's the perfect client if you're in it to make money. Because you just feed them the shit, they're going to do it.
To some degree.
Yeah.
To some degree, we're trying to make money, yes, but we also have a little more convictions, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually want my clients to do better. Like it bothers me if they're not. It bothers me when they hit plateaus. Even though I know a plateau is part of it, it's not a linear progression. But I want to think about it.
You kind of feel like you take it personally, like you feel like it's a reflection on you sometimes, and I feel that when somebody's struggling, it kind of feels like a reflection on me. But on the other hand, well, what are you doing outside of the gym? Are you taking the initiative to go to a massage therapist, a chiropractor? Are you taking the initiative to stretch and do core work, or get up and walk a couple times? Like, are you taking the initiative outside of the gym? And then if you have a client that is doing all the right things and you're still struggling, then you really got to step back and reevaluate what you're doing.
But even at that, like I always ask, and I'll probably ask you this at some point. Like I like to talk about my competitive lifters' pasts and how long it actually took them to get there, and how many guys. Like when we had Matt Wenning on, he was like, "Yep, 500-pound bench, man. I was stuck for years." My last podcast with Vinny DeZenzo, he's like, "Yeah, I was stuck. It took me forever to get a 400-pound bench." And he goes, "And that was with a shirt." And like it's just, you hit these points where you get stuck and you just got to keep plowing through it,
I have something for that. I didn't hit a total PR for 6 years. People don't last in powerlifting for 6 years. You know what I mean? Like people's careers in powerlifting don't last 6 years. I went 6 years without a total PR, and then I switched to conjugate, and then within a year and a half, I put 200 pounds on my total. So it's Louis has a great analogy. It's like, if I put $1 million under a rock out in the parking lot, are you just gonna give up after the first rock? Or are you gonna keep looking till you find that $1 million?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so many people would just look a couple of rocks and quit. Like, no, I'm gonna keep looking until I find that $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And almost every top lifter I know has some sort of story where they got stuck, but they just kept going. And
Hmm.
sometimes it takes a while. I mean, even with the injuries, like my back injury I'm dealing with was a combination of my sleep. I was doing granite, and I noticed I was carrying everything on one side because my grip's way better on my right side, and you don't want to drop a piece of stone because you just lost a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get everything figured out. Like I kept trying things, and I'm like, oh, that's a little better. Okay, this is it. And nope, that's not it. And it was just I'm not going to quit. I'm like, I know there's nothing seriously wrong with my back. I know I can get it better. I just got to figure it out. And it turned out to be an imbalance that was fairly simple, but it took me a while to figure it out, and then a little while to get it fixed, and now things are going great. But like if you just quit, oh, it didn't work, I'm done. You're never going to get anywhere because everything great's tough. Everything worth having is hard.
If you have it's passion. Like if you have, and it's not even like discipline. Like I feel like passion has to be the root. Passion trumps everything.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Tate said it best. Passion trumps everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I didn't quit, you didn't quit, 6 years of no PRs or 2.5 years of dealing with a back injury, like I'm passionate about what I do, so I'm not going to stop. And then on top of having passion, discipline has to be there too. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So if you want to endure, you have to have at least those two things, and that's why we never stop. We're passionate about what we do. You know what I mean?
I,
You're never gonna stop. You're never gonna stop. Loving your child. You're passionate about it. You're never gonna stop a career if you're passionate about it. You find something you're truly passionate about. It's for life. You know what I mean?
I think mentality needs to go in there somewhere too.
I guess I would throw discipline and mentality like the same. Like, you have to have a
See, I would
strong mind and a
say
strong will.
mentality and heart would go closer together. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Because to me, it's having that mentality of knowing like, listen, I want to do this, but it's hard and it's going to take a while. But you know what? When I get it, it's going to be that much better. But then I see what you're
Or
saying too, where it's that mentality of going, listen, this is just part of it. You have to stick with it. You're not going to make a gain every single day. You have to keep going.
or not no not uh I've been through plenty of times in the past 2.5 years where I didn't believe I was going to get better, but I just kept going because I don't have it in me to stop. But there was a lot of times, I'm sad to say it, where I felt hopeless. I felt like I was going to be stuck in this forever. Like I did not see a light at the end of the tunnel. But for whatever reason, I just kept, and I haven't hit that light yet, but I'm better off than I was in the last year and a half. So,
So would you say I don't know who said this quote. I just remember it's something along these lines. Like you never really lose until you stop.
mhm.
Like as long as you haven't if you're still going, you're still going. Like when I was a kid and I was having a fight, I may be on the ground and that dude may be punching me, but I didn't lose. I don't lose till I stop, and I'm not going to stop.
Losing and quitting are different.
Yes. So in the back of my head, I'm a pretty positive person, but I have to admit, with my sleep problems and stuff, some days it's really hard to be positive.
Mhm.
And those are the days where you go, you know what? Today I just need to not quit because I don't lose as long as I keep going.
If not quitting is all that you can do, that's better than anything else. If
Yeah.
that's bare minimum, that's still better than quitting, because what's the what's the other side? If you quit dealing with mental issues, or things related to that, what happens if you quit? You
Yeah.
die. You know what I mean?
And I don't know if
So,
you've had, because I know you suffer from anxiety. I don't know if you suffer from depression. Usually there's the two are together, but
um, uh, I think it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I had asked you, um, and I thank you because this helped me a lot. Um, I asked you about sleep apnea because I, I found out that I was diagnosed with sleep apnea,
mm-hmm.
and I couldn't I couldn't figure out why. Um, I was still suffering from depression and anxiety and panic attacks, and I hadn't dealt with that aside from meat anxiety. Like I have really horrible meat anxiety, but that's a different story. But I had not suffered from life anxiety, depression, panic attacks since before I met my wife, which was 12, 13 years ago, and I couldn't fucking figure it out. And it was just like waves crashing into the beach. Like
Mm-hmm.
it would not stop. And I was like, I don't understand this. And you had said that when your sleep is at its worst, your mental health is at its worst. And that just clicked in my head because I was waking up with panic attacks. Like one night I thought I was having a heart attack. Like I almost went to the emergency room. And that was when my sleep apnea was at its worst. I went, and I'm saying this is like throwing a rock in an ocean to you, but I went 3 months without sleeping, and I couldn't understand why my health was in decline. Like I just felt like a walking dead zombie. And it wasn't until I went into sleep study and got a CPAP, and I also lost 50 pounds because my sleep apnea was structural. I think that's structural, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
It's like it's either genetic or structural. Just like I was just way too much.
Yeah.
I was 310 pounds for too long. But that helped me a lot because knowing that, and that helps me to this day, just knowing that connection between poor sleep and mental health was that it's like intertwined, and that helped me a lot. And I thank you for that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that gets overlooked. And this is like, if I when I win the lottery and have a shit ton of money, I'm like, I would love, because I do not think that the medical community is studying this enough. Like every mental health issue I've researched and looked into, there's always some study in there that says something about sleep, but they never correlate them together. And I'm like, sleep has a definite impact on all mental health issues. And I'm talking about, like, even if you don't have apnea, but the quality of your sleep. If you're not getting enough deep sleep, you're going to have mental struggles. If you're not getting REM sleep, you're going to have mental struggles. Like it's your body recovering and being healthy. Most of that happens at night. Yeah, I'm the freak. Like, so people go, I talk about sleep all the time. And then the other day, a few months back, I guess I went, what's ironic though? I became one of the best in the world. And I didn't sleep. So how important is sleep? I go, I'm kind of a hypocrite in a way, but I also go, listen, you could get where I got and not deal with the shit I had to deal with if you can sleep.
You paid a price, though. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You almost paid it with your life. How many
Yes.
times over again?
Yeah.
So you didn't get through it fine. you
True.
you paid a price.
That is a valid point. Yes.
Paid a huge price for it.
Yes.
You got what you wanted. As long as you believe that the ends justify the means, then what does it matter to anybody else? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, for me, I look at a lot of stuff in terms of I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through those struggles. So those struggles are good. And it was funny because my teammates, we were really close. My team was really close, like family. And every now and then people would be like, Jesus, what could you do if you slept, man? Like, what the fuck numbers? You squat 1,200 pounds with no sleep? What the hell? And then I got to thinking about it and I go, but yeah, you know what? Maybe if I didn't have all the struggles I had in my life, maybe I wouldn't have had that mental drive to get through everything. So maybe I
For some
would have
people,
never
that's a
pushed the way
driver
I
to work.
did.
That's a driver for somebody to work. Some people
Mm-hmm.
can't work unless they have that wall. Like I'm one of those people. Like I can't work unless I have that wall. You know what I mean? I need an opposition. I need resistance.
Yeah.
Planes need resistance to fly. They need resistance from the air. I mean,
Yeah.
we're just a couple of those people who we need resistance to bring the best out of us. You know what I mean? So you might not have. If it was easy for you, like I don't know, maybe you wouldn't have. Maybe you would have, but
I mean, I would
it's
like to
who
think
can
I
say?
would have, but honestly, I don't know. So to me, the whole argument is kind of moot point. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Because I don't really know. Could I have done better? I don't know. So what's the point of even thinking about it, honestly? And I like the idea. I mean, I think it's important for people, and especially in this society, to start learning that, listen, struggle's a good thing. Like
Mhm.
adversity is a good thing. These are the things that push you and make you better.
It's necessary.
When your life is easy, you really don't learn much.
Nope.
When your life's hard, you learn a lot. And to me, I look at this as this is like training to me, where it's not a linear progression. You're always going to go up and down, up and down, up and down, and it should be linear when you step way back and look at it. Well, life's the same way. It's waves coming and going. It's strikes and gutters. It's ups and downs. So the bad times are when I'm going to learn. The good times are when I'm going to chill out, let my body recover, get healthy again, and prepare my resilient body for the next thing that's going to come my way. But I'm going to be ready for it, and I'm going to be looking for it, and I'm going to be happy about it because I know I'm going to learn. I mean, not totally happy. We're humans. Every now and then I wake up and go, son of a fuck, I'm fucking tired of waking up exhausted. It sucks. Fuck. And then I go, Chad, do you really want to be pissed off today? You're already exhausted. And then I go, yeah, no, I don't. I don't want to be pissed off. Like, who am I blaming anyway? I have sleep problems. It's nobody's fault. It just is. I can make it good or I can make it bad. It's up to me.
Yeah. That's one of the hardest parts coming back from injury is that up and down, how it's not linear.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I hate it. I absolutely hate it when it's time to level up. I It's one of the most challenging times for me. You would think it would be good because it's like, hey, it's time to level up. We're going to get one step closer to what you had before and moving past it. But leveling up is the scariest part for me because when you get to like the top level of that step that you're on, now you can breathe. Now it's comfortable. Like you're not scared anymore. Like you can go through your daily life comfortable. But comfort is not where we get better. And that's the hardest part. Now it's time to level up. Now we have to start doing things again that are scary. We have to start doing things that challenge our body. We have to start doing things that put our bodies, our injuries, whatever, in a position to where we are now testing them, we're straining them, we're forcing them to adapt and get better. But that's horrifying because you're stepping out of comfort. Like I just spent these 2 or 3 months going through all this horrible stuff. It drains your mind and your spirit. And I'm comfortable now. I can breathe. If I just stop, I'll be fine. But this is not the part of the road I want to stop on. Now it's time to level up and start doing that scary stuff again. That's been one of the hardest things. I mean, I do it, but whenever it gets time to level up, I'm always like, shit,
So,
comfort is
so
gone.
by level up, you mean like, hey, I'm good. Now we can start adding more and pushing it
Yeah.
a little more. And so the scary
Yeah.
part for you is being like in that comfortable phase or going, okay, now I got to step it up and now I'm going to be uncomfortable again.
The scary part for me is being uncomfortable because it's like, okay, you hurt your back. Okay, you spend a couple months just getting back to be able to walk, getting able to
Mm-hmm.
sit down, being able to lay down. And then once you get to the point where it's like, can do all these things without excruciating pain, I'm fine now. But I was like, no, okay, now you have to start doing core work. You have to start doing mobility stuff. You actually have to start doing body weight squats or RDLs, or like you have to start doing something that is now going to test that tissue that you hurt. So now it's like, now I have to start doing things that are scary. I have to start bending over. I have to
Mm-hmm.
start putting my spine into flexion or extension. You have to start doing all those things that hurt you in the first place. And it's a huge mental issue for me because it's like, okay, I'm fine now. I can play with my daughter. I can pick her up finally. I'm picking my daughter up for the first time in years, and it's an amazing feeling to be able to do that. But now it's time to level up. And leveling up, there's always this inherent risk of going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the worst thing in that's you
And
just dread it. Like I don't want to go backwards,
yeah,
but it's something that you have to balance on the tightrope if you want to get better.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's to me, that's the scary part going backwards.
And sometimes you need to take that step backwards to go forward.
Yeah.
But I
Mhm.
know what you mean
Yeah.
because for a long time, like literally, if I had to bend over low enough to pick up like a pencil or something off the floor, like it would tweak it. Like I
Mhm.
literally there was I don't even know how long where I feared sneezing or coughing because if I didn't have something to grab a hold of, it'd drop me to a knee.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you start getting better, and part of that process of getting better is like, hey, there's a period where I need to not irritate anything.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
so you're actually getting a little weaker during that period. And then you're like, oh my
Undertrained.
God, dude, I can fucking bend over and pick up a penny. And that's like a big deal because it's been so
It
long.
is.
And then you're like, crap, so if I go do straight leg deadlifts right now, what if I tweak it
Mhm.
again, or what if it goes back? And for me, just recently, because with my sleep, which is improved compared to what it was, my recovery is still so horrible. Like it's
Mhm.
so easy for me to overtrain. So I started training like I'm like, cool, dude. I got a regular schedule. I'm training regular. I'm riding my bikes. Like everything's going really good. And then all of a sudden, I went to throw the shot put one weekend, and like it was actually the day before. I was just working on the computer, and I got up and went to the bathroom. I'm like, oh, what the hell? And I think it was because I was lazy and I was slouching on the computer all day. Um,
Mhm.
but it tweaked it, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
shit. And then I'm like, well, I'm still gonna go throw. I want to go. I want to go see if I can still throw. So I went and threw, and then the next day, like my back's shit.
Yeah.
And I kind of had that little period. You have that little thing where you zone back in those past emotions,
Mhm.
and you're like, God damn it! Do I got to start this all over again? Like, am I not going to be able to heal my back? Is there something worse than I think there is? And I have really had to reel myself in and go, wait a minute, Chad, let's look at this. And then I go, wait a minute, I can still pick stuff up and it doesn't hurt. So it's not as bad as it was. So like, what did I actually do? And then I started thinking about it. And I'm like, you know what you did, Chad? You just overtrained it. Because lately I'm lucky to get 3 hours of sleep a night, and even at that, it's a really shitty 3 hours. And I kind of went, okay, so then just the next week you're not lifting. If it doesn't hurt your back to ride, you can ride a lot, you can walk a lot, you're just not going to lift. And so by the end of the week, it started feeling good again, and I was back to where I was. But it was like taking that little step back, and then yesterday, I wasn't planning on lifting the rest of this week. I was going to start back the end of this week doing light stuff, and I went, you know what? I feel like I'm going to deadlift today. Fuck it.
You deadlifted
Yeah, and
yesterday.
I deadlifted, and of course, it wasn't nothing heavy, and I'm still trying to work that in my head. Like anything under 700 or 800 pounds, I'm like, you weak bitch. And I
Mhm.
have to tell myself, no, Chad, here's where you're at right now. So if you do 450, that's a fucking PR. And be proud and happy to have that PR. But I pulled yesterday, nothing really hurt. Today, it doesn't feel bad at all. I've already went for my walks, already trained a couple clients. So I'm like, cool, man. Maybe that little step backward actually pushed me 2 steps forward. But what's
Yeah.
what's weird and kind of what you mentioned earlier, this is really tough for me still. I'm used to feeling invincible, and now I don't feel fucking invincible, and it sucks. Like it sucks. You start getting to a certain weight, and you're like, now you're really fighting that little negative part in your head, And and it was interesting because yesterday too, I got kind of out of position. Like my technique was not good for me, but I was able to keep pulling, and I felt my back, but I was able to keep pulling, and it didn't hurt. So I'm like, this is good. This is good stuff. But sometimes I got to step back and step outside myself because myself is going, yeah, you used to pull 700 and you didn't even give two shits. You'd straight leg deadlift it. And I'm like, now you're struggling with 400 or 500. You got to focus on it, and I got to pull away from that, Chad, and go, no, step outside yourself and look at this realistically and go, you did good. You're doing good. Just keep it up.
Yeah. Your your description of, bending over to pick up a penny. I legit for about an 8 to 10 month period, I can honestly say I lost probably 8 to 10 months of my life. I was I was petrified to move. Like
Mm-hmm.
I it was probably one of the worst experiences of my life because I anything I did spasmed my back. And I mean anything. Like if I lifted my leg up in bed, if I
Mm-hmm.
turned my head in bed, like anything I did made my back spasm. My back was so unstable and so fucked up. I was literally scared to move for 10 months. And I felt like I was in a prison. Felt like I was in a prison I couldn't leave. And that was the most time that I felt hopeless. I felt so much hopelessness, so much depression, so much despair. And I don't know what happened, but there came a point at the what changed it was I had a client that came to town and I was supposed to help him with his bench shirt. Like he came 4 hours specifically for me to help him in his bench shirt. And that morning, in the shower, I really tweaked my back really hard, really hurt it, and I couldn't help him. Like he had to train with my crew, which is fine, but he came up there, he came specifically for my help.
Right.
And the next day I had to stay home from work. And this all of a sudden this huge wave of emotion came over me and I started crying hysterically. Like I haven't my wife has seen me cry once and I'm not saying that it's like tough to not cry, but it's like I don't cry. I'm not emotional. And I cried uncontrollably for at least an hour. Like I tried to get up and walk through the yard. Like I was walking through the yard bawling. Like I really hope my neighbors didn't see it because they were like, "What is this guy doing?" And then I had to drive to my chiropractor to help me, and I actually had to pull over on the interstate because I was crying so uncontrollably that I couldn't physically drive. And since then I've started therapy, and my therapist was like, that was your body just shutting down. Like
Mm-hmm.
your body could not take the suppression anymore. Like that was just your body like giving you a hard reset because you suppressed everything for so long. Like your brain just could not take it anymore and just reset. And from that day I decided, it was just like a switch, you know what I mean? Like I just decided, like, I'm going to fix this. The pain that I feel now is 10 times worse than the pain I would feel if I tried to get better and hurt it again. So what I was feeling now was way worse than anything I could feel. Like if I tried to fix myself and I went backwards, I tried to fix myself and I stumbled. So it was that turning point where I was like, this is going to get better. And it has since then.
Were you on a CPAP at that point, or was this before you got on a CPAP?
Uh, I was on a CPAP at that point, and I struggled with the CPAP. Like I could never get it figured out. Like I could never um I could never figure out what setting to put it on because there were some nights where it was so dry I couldn't breathe, and there's some nights where water was in the hose and I was just breathing in water the whole time, and I just could never get it figured out.
I mean,
And
I'm
through that,
wondering, the quality of your sleep at that time because I think in strength sports people don't focus enough on recovery first of all, but I think when it comes to our mental state, we don't focus on recovery either. Like
no,
if you're in that state and you're that stressed out all the time and you continually feel that pain, like your brain never gets a chance to actually just chill out and relax. And especially
no.
if your sleep is not good and you're not getting the right REM sleep and you're not getting the right deep sleep, how's any of it supposed to repair? It's like stressed all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have since started going to on the CPAP thing, I lost weight so I didn't have to use my CPAP anymore. I lost 53 pounds. I did it over the course of a year. Like I just took my time and lost 53 pounds, and like the sleep apnea kind of went away.
Mm-hmm.
But I have since started going to therapy. I knew that there was a mental side to this that I can't do it on my own. And I'm either going to go see a sports psychologist or I'm going to see a regular psychologist. But either way, I think they could help me with it. Athletes returning from injury. And there wasn't a sports psychologist in the area. And a friend of mine had a really great therapist in town. So I started seeing this therapist, and I I didn't realize how well, I kind of had an idea, but I didn't understand how fucked up I was from it. Like to say to say the word like PTSD or trauma, that would be overreaching, but it was I would have like PTSD symptoms. I would have uh like recall. I would have panic. All I would have to do is see a chair that I've never sat in and I would have a panic attack. I would
Mm-hmm.
see if I would know that I have to go sleep in a hotel where the bed's different and that could set me off, like I would have a panic attack. Like if if I was lifting in the gym and there was a lift or like picking something up off the ground, I would have a panic attack because I would just be constantly flooded with these old memories and I couldn't deal with it. And I picked up this book from a thrift store and it was about trauma and the effects that it has on the body. And I was reading, I'm like, all of these things check off on me. Like all of the things that your brain does from traumatic experiences, the panic attacks, the fight or flight, uh, the the increased heart rate, the wanting to pass out, the wanting to throw up, like just all the things from like PTSD. I was like checking marks, checking marks, checking marks, and it's like this is so relevant to me. I need help, and I've been there since April, and it's helped so much. And she doesn't know anything about powerlifting, but
Mhm.
just helping me deal with the mental side of it, it's just like leaps and bounds.
And I think that's a big thing is that a lot of people don't understand. And I think this is, for me, the longer I'm around the sport, which is a really long ass time now, and the more I train people, the more I feel like we're missing the boat as coaches in some respects because we're not focusing on the mental side of it. I mean, to the point where I'm like, man, I almost would like to take my clients and go, listen, the first 2 months, you're either going to go see a therapist or like, I'm going to be your therapist. And all we're going to do is work on your mind and your mentality. And then we'll get to training.
Nobody's gonna do that though.
Fuck no. But it's so important. I mean, and it's like I was talking to a friend who had actually met. The guy's a comedian now, but he used to train people, and he was talking to him about when he gave people nutrition programs and stuff. And he goes, I don't give anybody nutrition programs anymore. He goes, I want to talk to them mentally and help them figure out why they're heavy to begin with. Like if you don't fix the mental issues, they're never going to stick on the program. And like if you have somebody that hates to train and their mentality is horrible, you can give them any program in the world you want and they're not going to stick with it. Like you got
They
to
have to
fix the
establish
underlying stuff.
they have to establish their why.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to know why you're training. So I tried to figure out, why do you even train? And then once I establish, why they actually train and they have like an off day or a bad day, it's like, well, what was your expectations of this day? Does it fall in line with why are you training? And that's like the first part of identifying, like, why are you mad? Like, are your goals or are your expectations of that day realistic? Because if you say that you just go to the gym because it's a social experience or you go to the gym because you're slaying demons, like if your whole purpose of going to the gym is to slay demons, does it really matter how you perform? As long as you go there and strain and get stuff out,
Mm-hmm.
isn't that the goal at the end of the day? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't be so hard on yourself because you didn't do as good as you did like a month ago or whatever. If the whole point is to get things out and it's your therapy, it that achieved the goal. So it's like you absolutely have to kind of be a therapist. And since I've started this whole therapy thing, I've gotten more on boat with mental health and stuff like that. You could see it in my posts the last couple months is
Mm-hmm.
the stuff I'm doing and the books I'm reading and just trying to help people. The mental health side of it is huge, and it's like you said, it's overlooked.
Yeah, I really think it's the root of the problem. And I feel like I know this because I feel like I've been on both sides. I always used to say I started lifting for sports, which I did start lifting for sports, but I quickly learned that it was a way to control my anger and temper and my hatred of the world.
Mhm.
But I just kept going with it, and I told myself it was for sports. And then when I didn't have sports, I told myself why I like to do it. And it wasn't until I got into powerlifting in a conversation I've talked about many times with Dave. And Dave goes, listen, do you want to be one of the best in the world? Or do you want to go to the gym to deal with your shit? And that was the first time anybody had bluntly said, here's the fucking truth. What do you want to do with it? And I went, holy shit. No, I want to be one of the best in the world. And that was when that's when I went, okay, I got to figure out how to deal with all this other shit. And maybe I don't need to be in the gym every day to try. I got to figure out another way to deal with this shit than going to the gym every day, because all I'm doing is beating the crap out of myself, and that's not going to make me one of the best in the world.
But the hard part is, I heard you guys talk about that on podcasts, and I thought to myself, I started lifting weights to slay demons. I started lifting weights to deal with the world. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I was really good at powerlifting and I wanted to be the best I could possibly be. So what do you do when it's both? You know what I mean? Like for me, it's both. It's 100%. I go there to deal with life, but I also go there because I want to be the best. So I
I,
just thought
I
of that when you guys said that because like it's both for me.
okay, here's my honest thought on that. I don't think you're being honest with yourself,
No?
because I don't think it is both. And
No,
even
so
if it is both, then so if you go in the gym and you had a bad day and you need to deal with your demons on that day, but you know you have a meet coming up and you shouldn't go that hard, what choice do you make?
that's that's I would push myself. So like to your
So you would push yourself
to
and
your state.
screw up your meet?
No, I would push myself in ways that were not going to be detrimental. You know what I mean? So let's
So then
say,
your
like you
main
said, like the
goal
first,
is powerlifting.
yeah, but if I go in, if a meet is coming up and let's say my main lift did not go as planned, you know what I mean? I would hit my accessories as hard as I could, or I would hit my conditioning, stuff that's not going to have, you can still put everything out there, like put everything out on the line, doing things that are going to have less impact is if you like further down the line, like compound movement, accessory, it all goes further down the line in terms of like compound movement, and then it gets down to like isolation, and then you should be doing some sort of conditioning and some sort of core work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I could push myself on conditioning, or I could push myself on core work, or some of the lighter isolation exercises, and that still would be that release for me. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't be as detrimental as if it was like, well, okay, my squat sucked. I was supposed to squat 1,000 pounds, but I only squatted 900. So now I'm going to squat 800 for 12 reps because I'm pissed at myself and then fuck up everything. You know what I mean? I think that's the difference.
So to me, you've made the choice to lift for competition, to be the best you can be.
Mhm.
And if you can find a way to deal with your shit under that, you do.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
would say that it's more or less that you're lifting for the best numbers you can put up.
Yeah.
You're no longer lifting to deal with your shit, but if it's there, you'll use it.
And then also just when you have a good day, that's confidence. That helps you deal with your shit. Not necessarily that you went and you trained until you puked.
See, I would,
Going and having a good day, that builds confidence, which helps with your demons. You know what I mean? Well, with me at least.
yeah, it doesn't help my demons. My demons are my hatred of other people.
You can't you can't drown your demons because they know how to swim.
hmm Like for me, it was literally going, okay, Chad, the gym is no longer for dealing with your shit.
Mhm.
Now, how are you going to learn how to deal with your shit?
Yeah.
And that was for
For
me,
you,
that
for
was a,
you, it's photography and bike riding, and uh, those are two I remember. Photography and bike riding, those are two.
those are things that just helped me. Learning to deal
Oh,
with
those
my shit meant going headfirst down into that deep, dark rabbit hole, being 100% truthful with myself, going over my life, finding out why I was so angry, going back and going, wait a minute, so okay, here, this happened when you were a kid. You're pissed off about that, but you're an adult now. Do you want to continue to feel like you felt when you're? I mean, it was hard. It was one of the toughest things I ever did in my life.
You're
But
done treating the symptom. You're done treating the symptom. You're treating the problem
yeah,
now.
I went to the cause.
Yeah.
And there's a
Yeah.
couple causes where I thought I solved it, and it poked its head back up a couple years later, and I went, okay, let's jump back into that hole. I'm not done yet.
Put on your helmet.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really what it was for me, and that completely changed everything. Like it changed everything in my life. And now the interesting thing for me though is to look back on this whole journey and go, okay, so if I would have fixed all these problems as a kid or when I was 20, how would my life have been different? I almost feel like the journey is waves, and it should be waves. It's okay that I felt that way, and it's okay that I used weight training because it built this great base and it pushed me and it made me tough. But then there's a point throughout that journey, and it's the same thing when you first start lifting. I love mixing lifting and life because I have so many lessons that go past both of them. Like when you first start lifting, you don't have good technique, you don't have good muscle control. Like you're usually young and full of freaking all kinds of hormones. Like you can go beat the crap out of yourself, and it's probably the best thing to do. But then as your technique gets better, as you get stronger, you have to start looking more at, hey, my nutrition's important. Hey, my sleep's important. Hey, I'm so good now that I need more time to rest because I can push my body further than I could. And I think life is like that. So I think it's not like we shouldn't look back at it like, oh, this crap happened to me when I was a kid. Blah, blah, blah. No, we should just go, okay. It's time that I fix this stuff. It's time that I resolve all these problems so I can move on to be a better person. Which was interesting because I've had JM Blakely on here a couple times, and I'm fascinated with his mind and how he looks at stuff. And there was one time and he's like, all right, let me ask you a question. And he's like, you keep saying you were this angry person. He's like, I don't see it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not. Like, I'm different. I still have it. I can still flip the switch, but I don't need to anymore.
Yeah, but holding it in is uh, I was an angry person. I like you said, I can flip that switch and be an angry person, but it's but another reason why I decided to go to therapy was because it's toxic holding that person in. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It rots you from the inside out. It's like you have radiation inside of you, and the more you try to hold it in on the outside, your shell, nobody sees it. Uh, but the older we get, the more things we lose, the harder it is to keep that inside, the
Mm-hmm.
harder it is to keep that radiation at bay. And at some point, you need to do something about it until you become just this empty shell with nothing
Yes.
inside. You know what I mean?
It,
And then
it,
that's all, and
it's
that's
like
all
cancer.
that's
It'll eat you from the
yeah,
inside out.
yeah. I mean, you can suppress it for a long enough time, but at some point you're not going to be able to control it anymore, and you'll end up being that person. You know what I mean? You won't be able to flip the switch anymore because the switch will be flipped and then ripped off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't see anything that I have inside me as it's not like this anger, it's not this resentment anymore. It's not anything I'm holding. It's just part of who I am. Like I can go like I'll call it full tilt. That's just part of who I am. It's not that I'm bringing up past memories or it's not that I'm pissed off. It's that I have this intensity inside of me.
Mhm.
But I don't need to have it out all the time. Like I can just keep it in there. And then if something happens, if I need to protect my nieces, I'm going to flip the switch. If I have a heavy weight that I need to get, I'm going to flip the switch. If the guys on my team are going heavy and I know they're just not there and I need to get them there, I can flip the switch. So it's like an evolution of and this may be another thing of like this is part of the process. The process started when I was in high school and I learned how to let loose everything that I kept inside, which at that point was anger and pissed off. And I would have these memories of shit with my brother and I would let him out and I'm on the football field just trying to kill people. And then it progresses now to where it's like, no, I have that intensity inside of me and I can get myself completely and utterly amped up, but it's not this held down anger. It's not this resentment. It's just intensity. It's just like this raw intensity that I have. It's almost hard to explain.
Yeah, but the older we get, the less we can use that because it's like nitrous. I mean, how often can you put nitrous through a car before it deteriorates the car? You know what I mean? So we kind of have to like
Yeah,
pick our
I
battle.
might rip my tendons off or something.
Yeah, you have to like pick your battles. I can do that too. I can flip the switch and I can be a different person. On in the gym, I can flip the switch and be a different person. And one of the real frustrating things, when I was down for a couple years, I never missed. I still didn't miss a day at the gym. There were some days when I didn't go and do anything because people expected me to be there. People expected me to be there, and some days it was like, you guys, I'm drowning. Like I can't hold anybody else up. Like I'm
Mhm.
drowning. Like I can't keep myself above the water. I never told that to any of them, but this is how I felt like some days. And one of my good friends who trains there, he was like, I never realized how much I relied on your intensity to
Mhm.
train at the gym until it wasn't there. And part of me was like, that made me feel good to hear it, and the other part of me felt depressed to hear it
Yes.
because it was like, that's awesome that I was motivating you. Now I feel like an asshole because now I'm not. Now you're not because. But yeah,
But again,
yeah, it's like
doesn't that kind of go back to the like, I'm your guide. I'm not here to pump you up every day. I'm here to assist you and guide you through this. You have to, I'm here to pump you up when you need it, but it shouldn't be relied upon. You need to learn how to do that yourself too.
yeah. Mm.
I know that because I responded to a guy the other day who was kind of talking about mental health month, and he had the attitude of, just suck it up, pull yourself up, get the shit done that you need to get done. And I normally don't comment too much on social media, but I commented back, and I tried to be intelligent about it. And I go, I understand where you're coming from. I can see your point of view. And to some extent, you do need to just toughen up. You do need to do the work, because even if you have a mental disorder, it's not going to go away. You have to toughen up and do the work. I go, but what you don't understand and what you're not realizing is, for some people, it's not just about that. Like, I never missed training sessions. I would have a gun to my head trying to get myself to figure out why I shouldn't kill myself. I would go train and come right back. I'm up for 3 or 4 days. I don't miss any training sessions. I literally had days where I was so depressed, I would go into the gym and I would shake my head yes or no for my training partners, because I was afraid if I opened my mouth, I would bust out in tears and wouldn't be able to stop. So I would point at stuff and they'd be like, so we're doing tricep extensions. I'm like, they're going doing JMs. I go, and it was just shaking my head. They would have to ask me questions because I seriously thought I would completely fucking lose it if I said anything. So I still did what this guy's talking about. I still toughed it out. I still had a purpose. I had all this stuff, and none of that solved the problem. The problem was something tweaked in my head. It was because I wasn't sleeping. It was the chemicals aren't right. And I think sometimes people forget that. But then on the same note, there are some weak people in this world who are
I was
like,
just gonna say, I believe 100% that mental illness is a real thing. There are some people out there who cannot do it on their own. There's some people who cannot do it without help. But I also believe that there is a overwhelmingly huge amount of people that do need to just shut up
mm,
and pull up your pants like everybody else does and just deal with the adversities of life. I
yes.
think that there are so many people out there that abuse the system. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not saying that mental health doesn't exist. It does. I'm acknowledging that it does.
Yes.
But I also think there's a lot of people out there who abuse the system.
Yeah, and I think that's that fine line. I've everything I've been through. I always tell people, I go, listen, me and you aren't that different. We're all dealing with the same shit. We all have ups and downs. It just so happens that with the stuff I go through, my ups and downs are way more intense. Like, everybody has some form of depression. We all get upset. We all get bad. And like I tell people right now, I go, my life right now is cake. Like I've done a lot of different things to change my life. I've dropped my expenses way down. Like my life right now is fine. Like everything I go through to me is the same thing everyone else goes through. Like when I feel depression now, to me it's like, dude, I'm just having an off day. Suck it up. But I know when it's coming. I know when it's something deeper than that too. Like if you can't go to work because your girlfriend broke up with you, suck it the fuck up, man. Like I hate breakups. I hate the ends of relationships. It tears me apart. But you still do what you got to do. You go, this sucks. I hate this. Can I make it work? Can I fix it? Okay, no, I can't. Here it is. This is it. Like, don't tell me you wanted to kill yourself because your girlfriend broke up with you. Like, that's you needing to toughen the fuck up. But then on the same note, there are people who the shit just goes to wacko. You know, to me, that's like telling a schizophrenic, oh, just shut up and deal with it. Like, dude, there's shit going on in his brain that's so fucked up. You know, he seriously needs some help, man. And I think it's all just this different level. And I think if we just open our minds to the fact that, listen, it's a different level. And what we need to do in today's time, I think, is people need to start, like, truth is hugely important. You having your buddy who broke up with his girlfriend and he doesn't go to work, and I just keep using that example, and you're like, oh, poor you, that's so horrible, she was so mean to you, blah, 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 blah. You don't need that. You need the friend that goes, you know what? It sucks. But you got to get your shit together. There's going to be more women. You're going to meet another woman. Like, it's not the end of the world. And it probably wasn't meant to be anyway. If honestly, you're going to look back on this and probably be happy at some point.
Yeah, a very close friend of mine just went through an ugly divorce. Like their marriage lasted a year. He was all in, 100% balls in. He was not the one who established the divorce. It was the wife. Dude never missed a day of work. Going through all that heartache, all the bullshit of, you know, owning houses and cars together, legal battles, financial stuff. That person just being ugly and trying to take the most that they could. Dude never missed a day of work. What he actually did was he actually started working 7 days a week. You know, he started working side projects on weekends just to be able to get through things. Like he never missed a day of work. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just, you know, that you use stuff like that to help you get through. Like if you were just to like stay home and be depressed, like that would not make you better. That would take you back. You know what I mean? If you just sit around and wallow in it, I feel like it's just going to make you worse.
Yeah, sometimes like things like that, sometimes it's going to take time. Mm-hmm. So if you can utilize that time in a more positive way instead of just sitting there, I think that's going to be way better for you.
The whole the idea of people not dealing with their issues and, you know, like being soft. I was talking to Ernie Littlebridge Sr. I love Big Ern. We were talking, like, we are one, and I think Justin Harris might have said this, something like this too, but we're one generation away, maybe two, but we're like one generation away from hard asses being gone. Like we're one generation away from no Ed Cones, no Dave Tates, no Louis Simmons, no Ernie France, no Fred Hatfield. We're like one or two generations away from men like that being gone. You know what I mean? And that scares me. That scares the shit out of me. Not for me, but like for my daughter, like growing up in a world that doesn't have people who set examples like that. You know what I mean? Who just take life as it is, do what they have to do, no matter if it hurts or if it's painful or if it's sad. Like life still has to go on. You still have to do stuff. You still have to contribute. You know what I mean? But I feel like we're losing touch with that in society, and that's scary to me.
Thanks.
There's always going to be
just fucking scared me too.
Right?
What's interesting, because I love lifting. I love technique. I love the movement of the body. So I train everybody. So I have clients in their 70s, and the whole goal is quality of life. Like, I feel bad for any blue collar person that worked their whole life and now they're too beat up to enjoy their retirement. I'm like, I want to help you live the healthiest, longest goddamn life you can because you worked so hard. I think you should have 40 years of being retired too.
Mhm.
And there's so many times I go, you know who my toughest fucking clients are? It's the 75-year-old guys and girls because they don't bitch, they don't complain. They come in, you can tell they're sore, you can tell their arthritis is acting up, and they're like, yeah, I got to do this. And they just come in and do it. And they don't go, oh, I don't like that one, or I don't like, well, I can't say that. A couple of them like to screw with me. So they're smart asses too, and they can take shit. But I mean, they basically just come in and do it. And I go, how are some of my tougher people 75? Like, how can it, we actually went for a bike ride. I take a lot of my clients if they can ride a bike, because I have so many bikes now, and I'll take 3 or 4 of them, 5 of them, and I'll give them all a BMX bike, and that's our training. Our GPP that day is to go for a ride. And we did it one day, and I had the one kid's like 16, and like me and Paul kicked his ass. And I'm 52 and Paul's 56, and we got back, and I'm like, I don't want to be an ass. But when I was 16, there ain't no fucking way a 50-year-old dude was going to beat me on a bike. Like, no way. And I don't see that anymore. Like, I don't see that mentality.
It's almost like the competitive nature's gone. The idea that you have to give before you can receive, like you have to put in before you get out. An investment, you don't get the money first and then invest. Like
Yes.
the sacrifice is you give the money first and hope you get a return. But that's the only way it can happen, and I feel like that's getting lost in the process
Man,
of you have you have to give first.
that's a whole interesting analogy, even with money. Because you look at kids now, they get out of college. I should make $150,000. You just got out of school, man. You should start at the fucking bottom and work your fucking ass up. Like, that's what you should do. That's what we did. But they just think they should have it. And now with credit and our country, look at our country. Our country's so out of debt, and we keep buying shit and keep building shit. So like, nobody wants to save the money, then buy the thing. They want the thing, and then I'll pay it off later. And it's kind of the same thing. And there was an interesting quote that I heard the other day, where he said, the guy, and I don't even remember who it was. He's like, if you think something is gonna be tough, maybe it's not that it's tough. Maybe it's that you're really sensitive. And I hear that in training. People are like, oh, that's gonna be hard. Oh, well, I don't want to eat that. And I'm like, listen, here's the deal. You tell me this is what you want. Here's what it's going to take. And I'm not telling you what it's going to take in social media. This is what it's going to take. Now, do you want to do the work? Because if not, then you don't really want that goal. And I go, it really is that simple.
It drives me insane. I struggle with that. I think like daily. Like people sometimes don't want to do this or that. And I'm like, you told me this goal XYZ is what you want.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you have to do to get that goal. And now you're just exposing the fact that, okay, you really don't want this. I mean, is there like possibly other roads to get to that? Yes, but they're going to be filled with stuff like that you don't want to do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it just baffles my mind when someone's like, I want this. And then when you present them plan or the recipe or whatever, they're unwilling to do it.
Yeah. Where I didn't have that growing up. Like, I had, this is what I want to do. It didn't matter what, this is what I want to do. It didn't matter what it was going to take to get there. I was going to do it. Like, even when I told people, after my first 700-pound squat, I said, I'm going to do 1,000 pounds drug-free. Nobody believed me. Like, my teammates are like, dude, it can't be done. I don't know. And then the fact that you think you can do it, not going to happen. And then somebody would be like, well, how are you going to do it? And I go, I don't know. Well, how long is it going to take? I don't know. I know that this is what I want. Whatever it takes to get there, I will do. Like, I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how miserable it is. I don't care how tough it is. This is what I want. So it's unlimited. I will do whatever it takes. And I don't, everybody seems to be like, everybody has this, I want to say fairy tale, but that's not true either, because every fairy tale we've ever written or ridden, Every fairy tale you've ever like listened to, they go through shit. That's what makes it a fairy tale. You go through shit to get the good.
Mm-hmm.
Yet there's so many people now that just, well, that's not right. I should just be able to lose weight. Yeah, according to who? According to what universe? Like, that's how you feel? Well, and I've been using this one a lot too. I'm like, that bar right there, that rack, those weights, they don't give two shits what you feel. They don't care. My gym doesn't care what you feel. I go, a lot of times I don't care what you feel. You told me this is what you want to do. This is what it takes. Whether you feel it's hard or not is irrelevant.
I have it on my wall at the gym. I referenced the bar is a quote from Terminator. Like, it can't be reasoned with, it can't be bargained with. It doesn't feel pity, fear, remorse, and it absolutely will not stop ever until you're dead.
Yes.
And like that's the bar. Like, it doesn't feel pity, it doesn't feel remorse. It'll never stop. So
even if you hit your
was,
PR, even if you break a world record, it's going to be there and it's going to hold more weight. Like, and that's great. That's cool. That means I have a never-ending battle.
mm-hmm.
That means I can spend the rest of my life trying to learn and get better.
Yeah. 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 I never this might be different for you, but I never set out when I started powerlifting. I didn't set out and say I wanted to be the best in the world. And I'm not saying that comment doesn't imply that I was or am, but I never, that was never my goal, was like to be the best. My goal was never to, I'm gonna squat 1107, I'm gonna deadlift 900 pounds or whatever. Like, my goal was just, I want to be as good as I possibly can be.
Mm-hmm.
And those things have just come along the way, because there's always, you can say I want to squat 1,000 pounds, but what happens when you get to that 1,000 pounds? If your whole journey was built around, I'm going to squat 1,000 pounds, that means you are going to check as many boxes as you can. You're going to take all your card tricks. You're going to lay down everything you possibly can to hit that 1,000 pounds. So when you get to the 1,000 pounds, like, okay, maybe I want to try, 1050, 1100. Like, you just played every card you had to get to that. Why can't you just think of it in terms of, I have these loose goals along the way. Like, it would be cool to squat 1,000. It'd be cool to squat 1,100. I'm just going to do everything I can to be better, and then those things will happen along the way. You know what I mean? So you're doing as much as you possibly can and not laying cards. Like, I still have cards I haven't laid. And I try to instill this in my lifters. Like, you get as far as you possibly can with limiting what you give yourself access to, whether that be gear, whether that be drugs, whether that be nutrition. Like, you always leave cards in your hat. You don't lay every card you have to hit a minuscule goal, because where do you go from there? I think you or somebody else talked about it with Dave. It's like, if you take all these drugs to just hit, if you just want to squat 1,000 pounds, and you take all these drugs to squat 1,000 pounds, what are you supposed to do if you want to squat 1050? Take even more drugs and kill yourself? It's just, you can't lay everything down. You have to just give, because there's always something you can do to get better. You know what I mean?
Well,
Unless you lay
you know what my first thought is?
everything.
I'm going to get more cards. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting because I think, again, this is all the journey. Like, it doesn't just happen. One thing happens. Like, when I did my first competition and I got kind of tricked into it, ended up loving it, then said I'm going to do this, and then I moved, and I had worked at graveyard, so I wasn't training very good, and eventually I went, you know what, man, that powerlifting thing was really fun, and I think I can be good. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to dedicate myself. I don't know how many years, but I'm going to dedicate years to this and see what I can do. That's how it started. But then you start hitting these numbers, and then you start going, oh, I want to do this. Okay, well, I want to do this. And it was like 1,000 pounds drug free. And at that time, that was there were guys that did it that were supposedly tested, but there was really questions if anybody had actually done 1,000 pounds clean at that point. So that was a huge number for me. And then it was like, okay, eventually I wanted to break the all-time total. I never quite got there because I went off the deep end with my mental health, but I had the capability to do it. And so I think that it's like this progression, and like I would say every number I did, I threw all my cards on the table every single time. But then I went, okay, fine. I'm going to get more cards. Like there's still more that I can do. I'm going to advance my training. I'm going to try to get more rest. I'm going to try to get my technique better. Like I was always improving, and I always thought there was more. And it got to the point where I think one of the, when I look back with my lifters now, or when I coach my lifters now after looking back at my career, I do recommend that people slow down a little bit and enjoy the steps along the way. Because I didn't. I got so focused that it's like I want to break the world record. I would celebrate the world record for 5, maybe 10 seconds. And then I was already thinking, what's next? How do I get more? And I never stopped and took time to go, Chad, you just broke the world record, man. Like, take a couple weeks and just enjoy it. I didn't do that because I was always more. And I don't think that's bad, but I think I could have gotten a lot more enjoyment out of it. Where I get enjoyment out of it now, and, you know, I post in all these old videos, and it's actually really fun for me to edit these old videos and tell the story, because I kind of forget about some of the cool shit I did. And I look back at it now and I enjoy it more now than I did then. Because back then I was always more. It was like Ed Cohn said at one point, like he goes, I just focused on getting better. I wasn't really thinking all this long. I was like, yeah, I have these goals, I have long term, but I need to, if I just keep getting better, eventually I'm going to do all these great things. So I think you have to have, like when I do goals, I do like my short-term goals, I do my long-term goals, then I do my like insane daydreaming goals. But I got to focus on the short ones. I got to focus on what's the next day, what's tomorrow. You know, what am I going to be eating an hour from now to help my next training session? So I think it's this, I don't know, organic like growth. It's like the roots of a tree. You know, those roots need to keep growing deeper and getting stronger. And it's this whole process as you get better and better and better.
But you didn't lay all of your cards on the table because you squatted 1,000 pounds drug free. That's not laying all your cards on the table. If you were laying all your cards on the table, you would take however many drugs you needed to take to squat that 1,000 pounds. And
yeah, no,
but it also leads. Let's say you took a lot of drugs to squat 1,000 pounds. Do you think you would have got to 1,200?
Well, first of all, when I did 1,000 pounds drug free, I was never going to do steroids. I was completely and utterly against steroids. Not against anybody using them. I was against them for me. I was never going to do that.
It's still a card, regardless of whether you thought it was a moral card.
But it was a card I was never going to play.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't even a card. It wasn't an option to take steroids at that time.
But it still is.
Oh, it's a card. It's just not one I was ever going to play. It was the rules that I kept in the box somewhere. Like it was not a card I was going to use. The only reason I ever did steroids is because I had low testosterone and I kept getting sick. Mm-hmm. And then at a certain point I went, well, I'm taking it anyway. I'm no longer going to do clean meats, so I might as well play with it.
Yeah. But just,
and even then, when I squatted my 1173, I had a torn hamstring that I tore 6 weeks before. Well, I actually tore it like 7 or 8 weeks before the meet, tore it 3 weeks before the meet, then tore it again on my first attempt, and then went ahead and took my second and third attempt. Like I wasn't leaving any cards on the table. I was full on, I don't give a shit. I'm either going to destroy myself or get this. And then I still went on and I did over 1221, but it didn't count because of depth, but I stood up with it easy enough. Mm-hmm. Like, so no, I don't think I ever, like when I went for my first WPO bench press world record, I used every possible thing that I thought I could use to do that. So to me, there was never any cards left. Now, like I said, did I keep learning? Did I keep educating myself? Did I come up with different ideas? I mean, the stronger I got, the more time I had to give myself to recover. So throughout my whole career, I trained less and less and less and less and less and kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So could you say, well, you had the card of training less? Yeah, but I didn't even know that was a card at the time. Like when I started, if you would have said, hey, Chad, you're eventually going to be training like twice a week hard, and then you're going to train like three to four times light, and then you're still going to deload like every fourth week, I would have went like, oh, bullshit. So, I mean, I didn't even know that that was a card. But I knew that I would keep pushing myself. I knew that I would keep learning. I mean, there's always, I have this saying, and I kind of stole this from Duffin, but there's always more. Like, even if I don't know it right now, there's more. There's going to be more. Ryan Krauser just beat a 30-year-old shot put record that nobody thought would ever be beaten. There's always more.
Yeah.
I think
our ideas of cards are different. I think what we think of as cards is just different. And
I'm a cheater, dude. I'll steal from the next deck.
Either way, you find ways to get better along the way. We're still saying the same thing. You find ways to improve along the way. It's that cliche. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey, and that's 100%. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have trouble with that one too.
Because if I was just about the destination, I would have stopped a long time. I would have stopped, a long time before I did.
But if you weren't about the destination, where would your journey take you? Like, why would you even be on the journey?
I'm still on it. Just being in the gym, training, trying to make yourself better than the day before.
You still have a destination. To me, it's balance. I don't think you can have one without the other. You have both. I love lifting weights, but I still set goals.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying you don't set goals. Like I have goals.
Well, goals are destinations.
But if I didn't love the process, I wouldn't. If I didn't love the process, I wouldn't make it to those goals.
Yeah. I think the ideal thing is to love the process and the goal. Love the process, enjoy the goal, and then you can start the process over with a new goal. And that's like, for me, it's like, if I have a goal, it's my goal, man. It's all or none. Like, I'm going full on for that fucking goal. My biggest issue now, and I was thinking about this the other day. My biggest issue now is that my main goal is mental health. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of goals that I set, I have to back off of a little bit because mental health is my main goal. Mm-hmm. Because with my sleep, just overtraining and how much I do, it really, it's all this huge intertwined ball. And if I pull one string, man, the whole sweater's undone. Who the hell was that band that had the sweater song?
Weezer?
Yes, Weezer, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's weird. And I actually had people say this to me before. People are like, man, that must have been so hard like when you were powerlifting. I go, no, that was easy. Life was easy when I was competing. Because that was my number one thing. Like everything else was just to get me powerlifting. Everything else was stuff that I had to do to powerlift. Now I'm like, hey, I want to break 100 episodes of my podcast this year. Hey, I want to make sure I get at least 12 articles for Elite this year. Hey, I want to grow, I'm working on purchasing land and building the barn dominium. I want to get that done. Like now I have all these goals and I'm trying to balance everything. Where when I was lifting, it was easy. Powerlifting's the goal. I just need to maintain underneath it enough to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, same thing when people say, isn't being a parent hard? Like, no, it's not. Like, I love my child. I want my child to have the best. So it's not hard. It's not hard being a parent. Sometimes it's hard making choices, but it's not hard being a parent. People act like being a parent's a chore. Like I'll never understand when people will get mad at their spouse because they have to stay home with their child. Like that just blows my mind. And I guarantee you've heard it in relationships where the spouse will be upset because they have to stay home with the child while the other person gets to go out and do whatever they're doing. Like I never understood that. Like I can do anything with Freya. Freya comes with me, and there's nothing in my life that I can't do with Freya with me.
Right.
We built our lives around the gym. So Freya has been to the gym since her first week of life.
Yeah.
That's just we built our lives around the gym, so we made it to where Freya was at the gym with us every single day since the day she was born. And we built our own gym, so we never had to worry about there not being a place for Freya to be. So
Right.
it's just priorities. Like if your child is your priority, which if you have a child, they should be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then it's not hard. You know what I mean? You're going to do the things necessary.
So this is interesting though, because I think this is a perspective is so huge to me. It's another mentality thing.
Mhm.
And this goes back to kind of what I said earlier about it, is it hard or are you just sensitive? So like when you probably have people have said this to you, man, is it hard to lift as hard as long as you got to lift? Or, is it hard to go to the gym 4 days a week and lift? And you're like, no. I just reposted on my story. I came across this old Elite video. Actually, I don't even think it was that old. I'd never seen it. I don't even remember fucking filming it, to be honest with you. And it was me talking about like, I'm always amazed when powerlifters go. They think they're such badasses because they train hard. And I'm like, I love training hard. I love going to the gym and just going berserk. That's one of the funnest things in my life. It's not hard. It's not hard to do
It's a
that.
pre it's a prerequisite.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that
just like
that's just a part of it. You know what
yeah.
I
So
mean?
you go, I want to be a power lifter. Okay, well that means this is what I got to do. And like, so
Mhm.
is parenting for you a similar thing where you're like, yeah, I wanted to be a parent. Well, this is what you have to do. It's not that hard. And not to say that there's not. I mean, I know we kind of talked earlier that point of I want my child to have an easier, better life than I do, but I also want him to grow up to be good.
Mhm.
Like that's a tough line, and there's tough decisions, and there's hard things you got to do. But overall, you don't look at it as hard because you're like, I love my kid, man. I have an awesome kid. I have an awesome family. Like this isn't hard. There may be some difficult things, but it's not hard. And I think that
It's
really
all
comes down to perspective.
Yeah, perspective, and it's also like priorities.
Yeah.
If you have a child and that child's not your priority, then yeah, they're going to feel like a inconvenience, which I don't understand how that works, but there are people who treat their child as an inconvenience.
Yeah, I don't understand. And I think that's perspective. I've had this feeling in relationships before where I despise the grocery store. I hate
Mhm.
shopping. Can't stand it. But if when I'm in a relationship, like going to the store with my girlfriend is way better. Even though I hate going to the grocery store because I'm going, listen, this isn't me going to the grocery store. I'm getting to spend time with my girlfriend.
Mm.
And I love spending time with my girlfriend. So why would I hate this? And even if I go do, this was years and years back, but one of my girlfriends, I took her and her daughter to watch that Mary Poppins, the second edition, whatever the hell it was. Dude, I don't want to go to fucking movies and see Mary Poppins. But I got to hang out with my girlfriend and her daughter.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to be an ass about it. To me, it's a bonus. I get to hang out with the people I want to hang out with. And I was a little bit of a smartass because I was making comments and making everybody laugh through the whole movie. But I mean, why would I look at that as something horrible? Like I get to spend time with that person. I had one of my other girlfriends was really into like airplanes and stuff, and she wanted me to go to this museum. And I'm like, cool, man. I'm asking her questions and I'm learning all this shit. And I'm like, airplanes are cool. I'm not really into them, but they're cool. Like I get to go see something that she really loves. Like you can look at it as a pain in the ass. You can look at it as something you don't want to do, or you can make the choice to go, listen, I get to spend the time with the person I'm in love with and I get to learn more about them. Like, how could you hate that? How could that be so fucking bad?
Yeah. To speak on your point when you said how do you go to the gym? Isn't it hard to go to the gym 4 days a week? No, it's hard to go 4 days a week. It's hard to not go 5, 6, 7 days
Yes.
a week. That's the hard part. It's hard restricting it to those 4 days because that has turned out to be the optimal amount of days that you go to the gym to
Mhm.
where you're building and giving yourself a chance to grow from it. The hard part isn't going to the gym. The hard part is not going to the gym.
I tell people all the time, I go, the hardest thing I ever did to become like a world class power lifter was training less.
Your 2 week training cycle.
Yes, that was the absolute hardest thing I ever did. And it took me, it didn't happen. It happened over years. I just kept spreading it out. And that again turned out to be one of the best things. Again, the hard things are always the best. That was the hardest thing I ever did. And the only way I could do that was to deal with my shit instead of going to the gym to deal with my shit. Otherwise, I couldn't have done that. That forced me to go, why do you need to go to the gym every day, Chad, to keep yourself from killing somebody? So I had to fix all those other problems. So in the end, it turned out to be the hardest thing was the best thing because it made me grow. And then it allowed me to go, hey, I can only recover so fast. So I can only train so much. But I'm also fixing myself mentally. So when I am in the gym, I'm getting a lot better work. I'm getting a lot more intent. I'm getting a lot more progress because now I'm no longer there to feed my demons. I'm there to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of it that way. This is why I love doing podcasts. Like I never actually that what I just said. That's the first time it's the first time that thought ever popped in my head that way, and I like it. Like it is another point of that truly was the hardest thing I ever did with lifting. I mean, I don't like stretching, but stretching sucks, but I can do that. You know, mobility work really sucks, but I can do it. I had a hard time with nutrition because I just didn't like eating that much. But I mean, overall, like lifting was easy to me. It was all the rest of the shit that was hard. You know, eating fucking, I don't even know what I know I was getting like 400 grams of protein.
From your muscle milk.
And I wasn't even calculating. I don't think I calculated calories at that point. It had to be 8 to 10,000 a day. It was freaking ridiculous.
I don't know how you didn't get diabetes from all that muscle milk.
Well, when you come home once a month and you got like cases blocking your door where you can't even get in, you're like, dude, that's a cheap way to go right there. I interviewed Blaine Sumner and I talked to him about the chicken shakes because I did one chicken shake in my life and it was so hard to get down. I'm like, this is not realistic. This is not going to happen.
I tried it. It tasted like cold chicken soup. I did the whole thing.
It tasted like cold, blended up, damn ass chicken.
It tastes like cold chicken soup. You know,
my whole body revolted. It's like, Chad, you're not supposed to be drinking this. Something's wrong. Alert, alert. It's like this fucking submarine and the alarms are going off.
I enjoy eating, so I don't enjoy eating a lot, but I enjoy the process of eating. If I had to drink every one of my meals, I would feel like I'm missing out on it just feel like I'm missing out on something. But
I don't know. I think he was because he was. I think we were about the same size. I think he's taller than me, but I think he said he was usually 385 or 390. So I mean, it just takes a lot of calories to fucking. And if you're trying to do it clean, I don't even know. I don't know how you could even do that.
Chicken shakes.
Yeah, chicken shakes.
That's how he did it. Yeah.
He did say he like tweaked it a bunch of times before he got it to where he could really just like drink them.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to shift gears here. You for the people that are on like a regular audio podcast can't see, but Marshall is wearing a white muscle shirt with this whole Chinese emblem on the front, which really reminds me of Jack Burton.
Well, there's a good reason.
And I want to know if Marshall actually knows that is absolutely one of my all-time favorite fucking movies.
I do because we talked about it before.
Have we?
I, I I I wore it because I knew it was one of your favorite movies. Like I was going back and forth debating like do I wear the Courage Barbell shirt? And then it's like, no, you don't wear the shirt of the band you're going to go see. Like you don't be that guy. So so I was like, what's the best next thing I could do? Like, oh, I know he likes Big Trouble in Little China, so I'll wear a Big Trouble in Little China shirt.
Like if Jack Burton was a power lifter, he would have been me.
Yeah,
And
such a
there's a
great.
lot of times in my life where I'm like, what would Jack Burton do? It's
Say what
absolutely
the
one of
hell?
my favorite
What the
characters.
hell? Hmm.
So you started. When did you do your first competition?
I actually had to look this up because I didn't know for sure, and it actually wasn't on open powerlifting. I think open powerlifting has my first meet in like 2010.
Yeah,
Um, my first meet was December 2007. Um, I weighed in at 218. It was like the first couple years of competing, I competed in drug free, like NASA.
I
NASA is
remember
one that's
NASA. Yeah,
Yep, NASA, and I did a couple USAPL meets. But my first meet was 218, um, 429 squat, 302 bench, 521 deadlift. That was my 2007. That was my first
what was the total on that one? Like,
1254.
oh, that's a long. That's a big change
Yeah,
to go 27.
yes. So that's
And when was that?
17
How many years
years.
is that?
17 years.
Yes,
2007, 17 years. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a
And
in
then
a was it 1,000? So 1,500 pounds on your total,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. And almost 200 in that was at the end. I had um I don't know anything about what programs are called. Like I had a client on Brandon Smitley's podcast,
Yeah.
and Brandon was asking, well, what type of training does Marshall have you do? And he was like, oh, it's like linear and it's block, and I'm like, I didn't know that. I, d- I just I it's what it is, but I for the life of me, conjugate is the only one I can remember what the training is to the name. Like
Hmm.
I can never remember, like linear block, step loading, stuff like that. Um, but I had done the same thing for probably like 12 years, which I think is what you would just call linear training.
Hmm.
And it got me to almost 2,600. It got me there very fast. But then, like I said, I went 6 years without a total PR. And then
So, well, wait a
Shane,
minute. Wait a minute. Define fast. What, like, what numbers and how long?
um, it's 2000, I think 2000, I think 2010, 2011 was my like high 25. So like 5 years.
So, in 5 years, you went from basically 1,200 to 2,500.
Yeah. Um, and I didn't,
See, that's huge.
I got there fast, and I did not dabble with, um, I did not dabble with drugs until I think I got to like 23, 24 before before I started dabbling. So I put a lot of years in, but it came to this head where it was like, I want to be the best I can possibly be, and this is just a part of the equation. It just
Hmm.
has to happen. Um, uh, but yeah, so I did linear for the longest time, but like I said, I went 6 years without a PR, and then Shane Sweat, um, over the years was really wanting to train me, and I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. And it came to a head where I did a meet and it was just bad, and I was like, okay, I'm trying anything. And Shane offered to train me for free, and I was like, okay, let's just do it. I'll try whatever you want me to do. And I'd never trained conjugate before, and it literally took me 6 months to acclimate. it took me 6 months to acclimate to where I could do a training session without wanting to die. Like I would only get half the work. There was so many months where I would only get half of what he gave me done, and I would be on the ground just dead. I would lay in the ground for like a half hour before I left the gym to go home. It would take me like 2.5, 3, 4 hours to get through half of what he gave me. And it took me 6 months to where I could do everything he gave me and feel fine. And the very first meet that I did with him, uh, it wasn't a PR, so it wasn't really the best meet. But the second meet that I did with him, I totaled 2,600, which broke my 6-year streak. And then uh 5 months later is when I totaled 2745. So I went from 26 to 2745 in about 4 months because everything that he
Wow.
had me doing just
Finally
finally
came together and paid off.
finally came together. And it was in my opinion, the biggest part of the whole thing was conditioning. Just being conditioned to be able to get through a meet and not feel like ass. Like getting to deadlifts and still feeling fresh. Like I got to deadlifts and I still felt like I just started the competition. I actually did dynamic effort lower the day after the meet. Like I felt so fucking good. Like I totaled that and I felt fine. And the biggest part of that was conditioning and accessories. Like you have to be in shape. That's just something that I feel gets lost on a lot of people in powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's just about being strong and brute force. Like, no, you have to be in shape. You have to be athletic. You have to, you know, being able to jump. Yeah, I don't think is a necessity, but it builds explosive strength and it also builds discipline. You know what I mean? So he had me jumping. I never jumped before, and just all those things that came
So what?
together
So
was
his training's changed over the years to some extent. So were you doing like a typical West Side kind of split,
as far as I know.
like
Yeah.
2 dynamic days, 2 max effort days in a week?
So it was, yeah, two max effort, two dynamic effort, and then two special exercises. So I was training 6 days a week, and the special exercises day were basically like recovery days. So if I did max effort upper on Monday night, Tuesday meant it was like a really high volume, like bodybuilding kind of
Mm-hmm.
style training for upper. So he called them special exercises, but that was just kind of like our recovery day.
Yeah. And then so you were doing like your main movement, then like 4 to 5 accessory things, and good.
Yeah, yeah. So it was main movement. I would say it was like 6 to 7 total movements between the main lift, uh, core work, and then accessories. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like 6 to 7 total. And I found that's like the sweet spot for most people, the
Mm-hmm.
people I train and myself, like that 5 to 7 is like really the sweet spot. And to me, that includes core work and that includes some sort of conditioning,
Right.
whether that be a finisher or just like a straight up sled work or some sort of conditioning.
And then do you deload?
We did not deload. We
So
I
you were able to do all of that in a week and keep it up.
Yeah. hmm
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
there was no deload. And that was the hard part to learn. Coaching people conjugate was I would just have people just go without deloads because that's what we did and I never needed it. You're just always in shape, you always felt good. But it took me a while to understand that people need deloads. So whenever I train somebody conjugate, I don't program deloads, but I make it a very specific point to tell me for them to tell me, how are you feeling on a weekly basis? How does this feel? How does that feel? If you need a deload, just you have to tell me and I will give you one
mm-hmm.
100%. And if there's certain exercises, certain lifts that just don't mesh with you or they hurt something, I'll change it. You know what I mean? I will program somebody like 12 weeks out, but just because that's what I give them, it'll change. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
This their whatever feedback they give me, I'll change it. It's not like set in stone.
I think that see, I change it. I have like there's to me there's I could separate it, and you could do this any number of ways. I can separate it into 3 people. I got the people who just aren't going to do enough that I have to push. Then I got the people that are going to do way too much and I got to pull them back. And then there's that magical third person like Ed Cohn and Steve Goggins, and these guys just know. They just know the perfect amount. They know when they need to turn it on and they know when they need to back it off. And those people are rare. So with my, I need to push them, I won't schedule a deload. And I have some guys that I know this dude's going to push himself so hard that, you know what, I'm just going to deload him every 4th week no matter what.
To me that's the harder part of where I'm at right now. Just my level of intelligence on the sport. I have a lifter who is getting very, very strong, and it's almost a detriment to him to lift the weights that he's capable in whatever percentages. Like I go off a lot of prevalence chart. But if they were to lift the percentages that they were supposed to listed on the chart, they would be destroyed. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's hard. It's a learning process to figure, okay, now you're not going to deadlift heavy every week. You're like progressing towards the meet. You're going to lift heavy for 2 weeks and then you're going to take a light deadlift, or you're going to deadlift heavy this week and deadlift light next week, deadlift heavy this week. Just finding these ways to give him the right amount of stimulus, like also knowing when to take stimulus away. It's
Yeah.
not just this cookie cutter thing of you're just gonna step load towards the meat and be happy anymore. We're past that point with him now to where if he step loaded with, he's a damn near 900-pound rod deadlifter. And if he spent his days leading up to that, deadlifting 800 pounds multiple weeks in a row,
Mm-hmm.
he's not recovering from that shit. You know what I
Well,
mean? So it's this dance.
I think first of all, I think you're more intelligent than you're giving yourself credit for, because everybody's different. You're never going to have this set, I know what to do with everybody. But you're smart enough already to know, hey, this guy's going to be different, so I'm going to need to change this. And that to me is a good coach. And hell, even the fact that you go, I need to learn more, makes you a good coach. If you go, oh, I got to figure it out. Oh, bullshit. Nobody's got to figure it out. Like, nobody. We're all doing the best we can and trying to tweak it to the individual. But
Yeah.
I think one thing that people forget, and George Halbert was the first person I ever heard say, the stronger you get, the more you're going to need to recover.
It's true. Yep.
And then I go back to some of the old school bodybuilder guys where they're, dude, your muscles are getting bigger, your bones are getting denser, your tendons are getting thicker, your ligaments are getting thicker. Is your brain getting stronger? Is your heart getting bigger? Are your organs getting bigger? No, all that stuff's the same. So now your body has to recover way more mass than it had before. And you're able to push that mass way more than you could before. And especially when you go to your central nervous systems and your axon and your dendrites and like all these other little chemical things have to happen. Well, none of that stuff got bigger and stronger because it doesn't. So you're going to need more recovery the stronger you get because you're taxing your body more.
Yes, because like let's say you're required or not required, but like you have it in your mind, like I need to squat 90%. Let's just hypothetical,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You have to squat 90%. 90% of your best squat is different than someone who squats 500 pounds raw 90%.
Mm-hmm.
Like 90% is 90% to that person, but 90% of 500 and 90% of 1200 is going to have a huge difference.
Yes, totally different, totally different. And that's the thing. And then like like you said, like when I had my team, we always watched each other and we always asked questions. So there's days where I would come in and Ethan's like, "You're not training today." And I'm like, it took me a while to start learning to trust the guys. And I'd be like, "Bullshit, I'm training." They go, "You're not, how's your appetite?" And I'm like, "It sucks." They're like, "How's your sleep?" I go, "It's really bad right now." And they're like, "Yeah, you're not training today." And then guys would come in, and this was one of the gifts that I had, being on the edge of all my sleep and depression and stuff. I was able to figure things out. So like people don't understand, sleep is a huge indicator of overtraining. And what would happen is the guys would come in and they're like, man, I watch how they walk in and I'm like, dude, they're slumped over. They're not standing up straight. Their step just looks lazy. And then you go, hey, so how's your appetite? Yeah. You been stretching? How's your flexibility? Because if you're overtraining, you'll start losing flexibility, and you should never lose flexibility. You know, how are your muscles? You been dropping shit? How's your fine motor skills? Like, there's all these different factors that come into overtraining and depending on the level. But one of the things I found is that my guys would be like, man, I fall asleep right away, but then I'm awake. And then I wake up just all night long. I feel like I wake up every half hour. And I'm like, okay, then you're deloading until you get 2 good nights of sleep. Might take 4 nights, might take a week. But if I deload them within a week, they would almost always sleep through the night again like they did before. And I'm like, the irony of this is my good sleep is your overtraining sleep. And like, so it just makes sense to me that I spiraled myself into full-on insomnia where I was awake 2 or 3 days at a time all the time. If I can stop them, maybe if I let them back off and recover, that won't happen. And it found out to be true. Over and over and over and over again, I found that to be true. So we would start checking on that stuff, you know, checking on, hey, you've been getting pissed off a lot lately? You've been getting road rage a lot lately? They're like, oh, yeah. Go, okay, that's one overtraining. You know, you've been fighting with your wife a lot? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's 2. You know, and then how's your appetite? No, my appetite's shit. I haven't been eating for crap. I haven't been drinking. Like, that's 3, dude. You're overtrained. Like, that's it. You're done. Always still come to the gym and help, but you're not lifting shit till you feel better.
Yeah. In regards to flexibility and mobility, just telling somebody to do that without an explanation, obviously they're not going to want to do it. But if you start to lose your flexibility, your mobility, and you try to squat, bench, or deadlift, your body is going to find the route of least resistance. So if you're trying to squat and your hip mobility is horseshit, and you get to a point like halfway down and your hips stop moving, your body is going to look for the path of least resistance. And if that's your lower back, guess where your movement's coming from now? And in the worst possible position for your lower back to move, in the very bottom of a squat. And that is one of the things that contributed to the downfall of my back injury. Was I had horrible rotation. Yeah, I had horrible internal rotation in my hip. And it would get, and I would try to squat so wide, and it would get to a point where my hip would stop moving, and you could see the movement was coming from my lower back. And it was just years and years and years of that. So that is another one of those things where you have to explain to people why you're having them do it. Because if you just horse it on your mobility and you force a movement like a squat, bench, or a deadlift, yeah, you might touch, you might get to the hole, you know, you might get to your deadlift lockout, but at what cost? Where did the movement actually come from in your body?
Well,
And that's how you get injured.
Here's the extended period of here's the extension of that. And this is one of the problems I had in physical therapy, and I'll explain it here in a second. Once you limit that movement, now you start developing movement patterns that are incorrect. And it becomes a habit. So one of my problems when I worked in physical therapy is it's like, okay, they have this shoulder issue. Okay, they come in. You get them out of pain. Then you're like, okay, you're done. You're out of appointments. And I go, but you didn't fix the movement pattern. You didn't correct the movement pattern. So they feel fine now, but they're going to go back to work and it's going to get fucked up again. Like you're not fixing the root of the problem.
You're just treating the symptom, not the problem. I mean,
and then the other thing is I tell a lot of people, like, if you can't get to your squat in a good position, you're not your strongest. Like and people don't understand this because I don't know why they don't, but like if you put a straight bar across your back and your hands are up on that bar, as you go down and you hinge, you need to be more flexible at the bottom with your upper body. So people have this tight ass upper body and you see their wrists bend and they're barely holding onto the bar and their elbows are up in their fucking back. And so they're in the hole and their whole upper back is curved over. So how are you going to drive your back up if you're curved over? You're going to drive yourself forward. So it's not that you don't have the strength to squat that. You don't have the flexibility to squat that, which will allow your body to utilize all of its strength. So therefore, if you break this down, there's flexibility in strength without even going deep into the muscle and the Golgi tendon and the spindle fiber. You can't get in the strongest position because you're not flexible enough.
And I never understood the correlation between thoracic mobility and lumbar mobility. If you don't have thoracic mobility, it will come from your lumbar.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like if you try to like put your arm over your head or like do an overhead squat and you think that you're coming up in thoracic extension, if you actually look in the mirror, your upper back is not doing anything. Your lower back is starting to curve. Like you're getting the extension from your lumbar spine. And that's what happens in squat. If you get down towards the bottom of the squat and you need to have that mobility to where you can arch your upper back, arch your thoracic spine, and you don't, that has to come from your lower back. And then you're putting yourself in extreme extension when you have the greatest load possible, on your back. So
I never
understood that.
It's eventually going to catch up with you. But it's gonna take years, and then you're like, what the hell happened? What happened? Why did what? And it's like, it didn't happen overnight, dude. You've been fucking up for years. And it's the same thing with all these power lifters that can't lift their arms and their shoulders are all fucked up. It's because you never stretched. You don't have the flexibility, but you kept doing shit.
Yeah, I really like that. Dave, I honestly don't know if this was on your podcast with Dave, but Dave admitted that a lot of what him and Louie were saying back in the day was lost in translation, because when they would tell people to arch their back and they would be at seminars and they would watch people's interpretation of what arch their back was, and it was not right. Like that was me. Like Louie would say, arch your back to squat, arch your back and push your belly out. So I learned how to brace by arching my lower back as hard as I could and pushing my belly out as hard as I could. What that did was put me in extreme spinal extension. You know what I mean? I learned to brace the wrong way.
Well, yeah,
and I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to brace the right way. I learned the wrong way.
You basically had open scissors. So your brace was nowhere near as strong as it could be.
No.
And a lot of us started that. I started that way.
Well, that's what I was told. I mean, that's how I interpreted what they were saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we've also taken it a lot farther. Like back then, bracing meant pushing your stomach out. Now I tell people, I go, no. Bracing starts with the position of your low back. It starts with dropping your rib cage into your pelvic floor. Like if you tell me bracing, and I love to ask people this, what is bracing? Oh, pushing my stomach out. I go, nope, that's not even close. That's like an eighth of what you need to actually do.
Yeah, and it's trying to figure out how to fill up your whole belt, not just the front. Like trying to fill up the 360. And I'm still trying to learn that because I learned how to do it. You
can't do that if you have a big arched low back because you have open scissor.
Yeah, that's something I'm still like when you say motor patterns. Like I've done so many things wrong for 15 plus years. Now that I'm trying to do everything right, everything feels foreign. Everything feels wrong. Everything feels wrong. And then because what feels right is wrong. You know what I mean? It's such a mind fuck to try and do it. It's such a mind fuck.
Chris was one of the first guys that really got me to understand bracing, because to me, bracing was the same thing. I arched as hard as I could, put as much air in my belly as I can, which actually is not true. You don't put any air in your fucking belly. You're pushing your diaphragm down. But it's just easier to explain it that way. And then when he first, and I argued with him for a long, long time, and eventually he just kept facting me. Facts. And I remember finally I went, all right, fuck you, Chris. You've convinced me, god damn it, now I got to do it. And he taught me, get in the neutral low back, drop the rib cage. I felt like I was rounding over. And I literally I go, dude, I'm rounding over. And he goes, no, you're not. I go, all right, video it. And I literally had to video it to help get myself to go, no, you feel like you're rounded, but the real thing is you're not arched as hard as you used to be, and now you're in a neutral arch back. But watching the video helped me kind of correlate that into my brain that, no, it may feel wrong, but this is right. I need to start associating this with being correct. But it felt so weird because I had been
Yeah.
doing it for so long the other way.
If it feels like you're a train on a track and you're trying to fight off that
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to drive off the track.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so wrong. That's one
Now,
of
though,
the biggest hurdles.
that's a very good humbling thing for us, though.
Mhm.
Because now because I get frustrated sometimes, I'm like, dude, you people, your proprioception fucking sucks. Do you guys have any idea where your body is in time and space? And I have to remember back and go, well, no one ever taught them how to squat. So like to them, it feels completely and utterly foreign, and I just need to be patient and steady and keep pushing the point across. It was the same thing with rooting. When I first started rooting was pushing out as hard as you could. That's not what rooting is. That's not even close.
On the side. I would drive out on the sides of my foot, like the inside of my foot would come up, like my big toe and the inside of my foot would like be off the ground.
Yes.
And I still struggle with rooting. Like my PT has been trying for years to get me to like drive my big toe in the ground, and like I can't do it. Like I'm doing it right now. Like I can't fucking. It's better than it used to be, but it's like trying to squat with my big toe in contact with the ground at all times, or just like the ball of your big toe. You know what I mean? Like keeping that tripod. Like that's harder than squatting 1,000 pounds. Squatting 1,000 pounds was easy.
When you get it, it's actually really amazing how many things engage and how they engage when you get it right. And
everything that's supposed to be doing the work is
this is the greatest thing. I started doing this with my niece and nephew, and now I do it with my great nieces. And I remember I used to explain this stuff to my dad. And my dad had called me up and he goes, I'm watching your niece and nephew. They're doing exactly what you said they do. And like, I'll take my great niece, who she just started walking a couple years ago, but when she first started walking, I'll take her and I would set her on the kitchen counter, and I would put one hand on her belly and one hand on her back. And then I would like tilt her forward and tilt her back. And you could feel her brace exactly like I coach people. And then you start watching her feet when she starts walking. Perfect root. Perfect. And I'm like, this is proof that this is how it's supposed to be done. Like we're born doing it right. We just screw it up when we start thinking we're smart.
We learned to do it the wrong way.
Yes.
Or we look for the path of least resistance.
I think we do that too. I think there's a lot of times, and again, with the movement patterns, we know the correct movement patterns, but we get lazy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. It is so much work to do everything the right way when you've been doing it wrong for 15 years. Yeah.
And I will also, here's another, I have to be careful when I've learned that I need to be careful when I talk about overtraining, because I've been talking about overtraining for years and years and years. And I really do need to specify more on this subject. If you're a mid-level lifter or below, you're probably not doing enough. But I'm around I've always been around such high-level lifters for so long. That's just the way my brain works. Mm-hmm. I truly believe most high-level lifters, and I think it's hard to get a hold of some of these new lifters that are just killing it. Like there's some guys that are doing these crazy raw numbers, and I have a sneaking suspicion they're paying a whole lot more attention to recovery than we used to. But I want to get some more of them on the podcast and actually talk to them about that. But what people don't understand is when you're overtrained, you screw everything up. When you're overtrained, your movement patterns are going to get tweaked and twisted and torn up. And it's not worth, there's this peak, undertraining and overtraining. It's not worth, when you're coming up, I think there's a benefit to overtraining. I think it's good for your tendons. I think it's good for your ligaments. I think it's great for your mind. But there's a point where it's not worth it anymore. You're actually better off being a little bit undertrained. Because there's so many negative things that can happen when you're overtrained. And guys, like I said, guys wonder why they're too tight and they can't get flexible. I'm like, because you're fucking overtrained. Dude, your body is so pissed off and your muscles are so hypertensive, you're not going to be able to stretch. And that's just more proof that your muscles are fucked up. I mean, like, have you ever went up to your buddy and grabbed him on the traps and it's like knocking on a piece of rock? And they're like, yeah, my traps are yoked. And I go, your muscles are never supposed to be that tight. Your muscles are fucked up, man.
How do you not have migraines? How
Yeah,
do you not have
yeah.
migraines
And
all
they're
day
like,
long?
I do. I get a lot of headaches. And I'm like, dude, that's not good. That means you're fucked up.
The motor patterns thing, it's a lot of great conversations with my PT. But he's like, you have been doing things so wrong for so long. It is amazing that your body has adapted and found a way to do it. Obviously, it came to a point where it was too much, but there's so many movement patterns that I have that he's like, your body shouldn't be able to do this, but your body adapted and found a way to move in a way it shouldn't have. And then you drive forklift. So um uh at work we have forklifts to where they don't fucking fix them. Like they just let them go ragged. Like there's shit falling off, like there's things bent and things that are leaking. But they over time, those forklifts become the reliable ones because they found a way to work in that fucked up position.
Yeah.
But when they finally bring somebody in to like fix the wheel or fix the bearing, then everything else fucking sucks
Yes.
because you have taken it out of that pattern that it adapted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been the same way. Like when he would fix something on me, that is when the cascade of stuff followed. Like when he would
Yes.
fix something and like make it right, he had now fucked up that system that I had built to adapt around all the wrong shit I was doing. So now when he made something right, now everything else that was wrong, it doesn't fall in line anymore. And then we had to fix this and fix this. And like you
Mm-hmm.
have to all of a sudden you have to fix the 12 things that you've been neglecting for, a decade.
Yeah, because I mean, basically, in the terms of the forklift, it wears to where now it's this crooked wheel is actually worn to where it works.
Yeah.
But then when a guy goes, dude, this is all screwed up, and he replaces those parts, well, the other part, the tie rod, had also worn to fit that, and
Yeah.
now it doesn't fit it when it's upright anymore. And
Now
it's
you have to
basically
fix
you
that.
look at your shoulder, and it's like it's the same thing. There's a lot of moving parts, and if you
Mhm.
lock down one, and this muscle got tight, and this muscle got loose, as soon as you fix it and start moving it right now, it's going, wait a minute, whoa, what the fuck are you doing, man? But the thing is, and I think it was AJ, I think I was talking to AJ Roberts, and he was talking about this, and it was like, dude, I don't want to learn from the power lifter that's 30 and is going to be fucked up when he's 50. I don't want to learn from the fucked up power lifter at 50. I want to learn from the guy that was one of the top power lifters and is now 60 and in great shape and moves great.
Mhm.
And I'm like slowly raising my hand because I'm like, dude, I'm 50 and I can do whatever the fuck I want. I ride little kid 20-year-old BMX bikes, man. Like, but I was always, everyone made fun of me for my flexibility work. Everyone made fun of my mobility work. Everyone couldn't believe that I could do the splits. And I'm like,
That was frowned upon.
but I did all that stuff
Mobility was,
because
yep.
I knew it needed to be done.
Hmm.
And then when I would go talk to Louie and go, Louie, dude, your whole concept of the stretch reflex is incorrect. I go, you're not taking into account the Golgi tendon apparatus. You're not taking into account the muscle spindle fibers. And he just didn't want to hear it. And I think deep down, I think part of it might have been that he just knew the guys aren't going to stretch. Like
Yeah.
at some point you just go, all right, it is what it is. They're not going to do it.
It was frowned upon. It was like, what are you pussy? What are you stretching? Like,
Yeah.
you ever see a lion? You ever see a lion stretch before he takes down a gazelle? Like,
Yeah, but
we're
then
not lions.
I would
We're not
go,
lions.
who's one of the fastest athletes for like a foot in the world? Sumo wrestlers.
Usain Bolt?
Sumo
Oh,
wrestlers.
for a foot.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sumo wrestlers are explosive as fuck. Like
Yeah. And you know
I
why
love
they're so
sumo, like,
explosive? Because all them fat asses are flexible as shit.
yeah, they're I love watching. Me and Freya watch sumo. Like, I love how explosive they are. Like, I would love to see like a legit powerlifting coach who understands explosive strength and all that stuff. Like trained sumo wrestlers. That'd be so amazing.
Could you, well, just, I mean, I would like to see what some of them can squat. And I would like to see if you trained them in powerlifting, especially with like dynamic. I think
Mhm.
you'd go in there and just destroy guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, really,
'Cause
you're
they're
looking at
so
400 and
fast.
500 pound guys that are in a deep squat. And when they
Mhm.
go, man, they go fast. Maybe
Yeah.
he can't keep it up for 6 feet, but for a foot, that some bitch is fast.
But that's their sport. That's, I guarantee if they had to be fast for longer than 5 seconds, they would train that way. But,
Mm-hmm.
they,
But the point being, they're really flexible and they're the fastest at that.
Mhm.
So how can you tell me being flexible is bad?
I think that gets muddled, flexible past necessity. Like
Oh, there's
if you're trying to be flexible past the necessity, you know what I mean? Like if you're, if you're, I think that's where it falls in. Like people think flexibility means like gymnasts, like you can put your legs behind your head. Like I think you have to be flexible in the range of motion that you're expected to work. You know
yes,
what I mean? But
yeah,
that to me, that's flexibility, mobility, however you want to define that.
yeah,
I know the two are different, but it's like I think you have to have flexibility in the range of motion you're expected to perform in.
yeah, exactly. That's like saying a lineman needs to squat 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to squat 1,000 pounds. I think he needs to be able to do 700 quick.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know, so
But then it's
so
also
so why would you
benefit to
waste
risk.
time trying to get him to do 1,000 pounds if it's not going to benefit him? And it's
That
just
that shot was that shot putter that broke the record. Has he been in like rogue videos where he's squatting like 600 and 700 pounds for reps?
uh,
Was the guy from America or not?
yeah, he's American. If there are those videos, I'm going to look them up because I'd like to see that.
I just watched a video that Rogue put out of an Olympic shot
Because
putter, and
again,
he's squatting like 600, seven
you
hundred
you
pounds for
throw a
reps.
16 pound ball. Like when I went into the Highland Games, I have a background throwing, but the Highland Games is totally different.
Mhm.
So what was really cool is when I went to the Highland Games, I'm like, holy shit, dude, that's this guy and that's this guy, and I knew all the pros and stuff, and like just getting to meet them, I'm all pumped up because I get to meet the pros and shit, and that was exciting for me. And then it turns out most of them knew who I was, so they're like all excited. They're like, "Fuck, you're Chad Ikes, dude, man." It's like, and we would sit down and talk. And there's actually a couple of them that really went out of their way to help me with technique and stuff. And we used to laugh because I'm like, dude, if I could train you, you could throw shit so goddamn far. And they're like, yeah, you're already strong, dude. If you let us teach you how to throw, like learn the technique, because it's like there is crossover. And I did well. Like I came in right away and I was like an A thrower, which is just under pro. And that was just because I'm strong. Like, and I trained force and stuff, but it's not optimal. Like all those pros couldn't come close to me in the gym, but they out threw my ass.
'Cause they don't need to.
Yeah, because they don't need to be that strong. They need to be more explosive with a lighter weight.
Yeah, I just read there's a really cool book um it's about the original West Side Barbell in Culver City.
Mm-hmm.
It's called like Secrets of Culver City West Side Barbell, and it not only talks about the original West Side, but it talks about the culture of strength sports in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of those guys were shot putters before. And
Yeah.
then so many of them trained powerlifting for shot putting. Like, how many shot putters do you know? I've heard Louis talk about shot putters that bench 5, 6, 700
Mm-hmm.
pounds in the gym, and but that's just a huge part of it. They squat 700, 800 pounds in the gym, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the carryover is huge.
Yeah, like you had guys like Brian Oldfield was a 500 pound bencher, 5 plus. Randy Barnes was a 5 plus bencher. But you also got to remember they were doing 500 pounds and it was fast.
Yeah.
And they
Speed work.
also, you'd be like, holy shit, that's fast. You could probably bench fucking 620. No, if you added 10 pounds to it, they were done. Like, because
Yeah,
they were just,
that's explosive people. That's
yeah,
explosive people. They'll annihilate a weight, and then you'll put 20 pounds on and it'll bury them. Or you'll have somebody like me who has my 500 pounds will be the same speed as my 1100 pounds.
yeah,
So it's like, how do you those both of those are hard to judge on meet day unless you know the lifter. If
yes,
you know the lifter, it's not that hard, but it's like you see somebody annihilate a weight, you're like, put 50 pounds on the bar, and then they just get destroyed. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, did that just happen?
And a little bit of that is how you train. Are you training your slow twitch, your fast twitch? Are you training your body, your central nervous system to be explosive like that? Like I'm debating on if my back holds out. I'm debating on trying some master shot put, And I'm like, if I go master shot put, I may train all dynamic. Like I might not do any max effort work at all.
You can make the argument that you've already have a base of strength to begin with,
Yeah, I just need to get faster.
or at least all the strength that you would need to be able to do shot pit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I think it's different. And like when I have a couple of IFL football players, well, I got one that I'm kind of helping now because the other one decided to stop. But I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit if you squat the parallel. I want to see you in your stance, and I want to go about that depth.
Mhm.
And like, I don't give two shits if you pause your bench. Like, you're not a power lifter. Like, so I kind of bend the rules and go, you're still a football player. You're here. I'm going to use all the knowledge I learned in powerlifting, but you're a football player.
It's specific to their sport.
Yeah.
You can't try and train a shot putter like a power lifter. You have to make it specific to their sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're in the, and I think that's actually a very positive thing. And I think I've talked about this in a couple of podcasts because I remember talking to Hunter, who was my IFL guy, and he couldn't grasp the concept that there's power lifters that I struggle with getting them, like telling them they got to deload for a week. I might as well have kicked their dog. Like they hate it. And Hunter's like, dude, I don't understand. You tell me I can take off for a week, I'm happy as shit. He's like, I hear the words deload, and I'm like, yeah, I can go play basketball this week. You know,
because that's a part of his training. You know, like powerlifting is our training. Like strength training is just a part of it's a part of sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But probably if you told him like, okay, you can't play football for a week, then he might,
yeah,
then that might bother him. But
it's that differentiation of like, no, I'm in here to get stronger for football. Mm-hmm. And I kind of think powerlifters, because we get, and I think you talked about this in one of your recent videos, where if you come in and that first lift doesn't go like you want, it like ruins everything. Because to you that was competing. Like you associate that with competing, and I think what we need to do is we need to go, okay, you're a power lifter. Competing on the platform is your sport. This is just training to be on the platform, and kind of make that differentiation, because we all know that not every session is going to be the best. Not every session is going to be 100%. Like if you're, and me and Laura Phelps talked about this. If you squat 1,100 pounds at a competition, you're not an 1,100 pound squatter every day.
No.
I mean, I had days where 800 pounds felt like a house, but I had done 1,100 in a meet. Mm-hmm. So like that's one of my issues with all the percentage training people do. I go, well, you don't know what your max is today. Mm-hmm. Could be awesome, could be shit. Like you're not. And even like when Chris Duffin was going to deadlift 800 every day for a month, I think he got halfway through the month and he started getting all kinds of injuries and stuff. Like, cause you it's not every day. Your body it needs enough time to recover and stuff. And I think if we could kind of differentiate that you're a power lifter, but this is training for the meet. This is not powerlifting in the gym. You're training to be a power lifter.
I think that specific scenario really exposes people not grasping how important accessories are. Mm-hmm. And whether that's the fault of the coach for not relaying to them how important accessories are, or them just not accepting the fact that accessories are huge. Yeah. So if you have a shit first lift and you decide you're going to forsake the whole rest of the day, you're just getting rid of 85% of your training. Like, and I'm talking about just like this the section that it requires in your day going to the gym. Like the first lift, that's like 15% of what you're supposed to do for that day. So if that goes wrong and you fucking leave, you just walked out on basically your whole workout. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You still have that 85% to get better. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you could argue that you could skip some of your main lifts on some of your days when they're not feeling better. But if you kill your accessories, that'll at least keep you online. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like people underestimate how important accessories are, and they overestimate how important the first lift is. I'm not saying the first lift isn't important. I'm just saying if it's not there for you on that day, you can still make an amazing progress by focusing on your accessories.
So I think, okay, I got a couple questions here. First one is, why do you think the accessories are so important? Do you think that it relates, like for me, accessories are important because it relates to your weak link?
Yeah, you're and it's your accessories are picked specifically for you as an individual to
Yes.
bring up your weaknesses.
Yes.
And I've always made the analogy that it's like forging a blade. With that your main lift when you're going over working on technique, working on acceleration, working on being as fast and as technical as you possibly can, that's sharpening your blade. That's sharpening your blade, that's polishing your blade, that's making everything perfect as so. But the forging comes from your accessories, pounding your blade, folding it, pounding it, folding it, heating it up, cooling it, shaping it into what you want it to be,
Right.
giving it the integrity and the strength and the stamina that it needs to be a blade comes from the forging process, which is your accessories. You know what I mean?
I
If you
love that
don't
because I'm a knife guy.
so if you don't take the time to build and stabilize and put integrity into your blade, it doesn't matter if your technique is really good and everything looks well, it's all going to fall apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need both.
Well,
They're
I think
both
it's
an
like
integral part.
if your weakness is, say, your mid back and you round in your squat, you're going to keep doing your squat. You're going to keep failing at the point that your mid back folds. So is it actually going to get stronger? Probably not. So your squat's going to stay the same until you fix that weak link. And you can fix that weak link by going, hey, we're adding accessories in that hit that specific part, that
Mhm.
specific muscle group. So then my
Yeah.
next question would be, if you come in and your main movement sucks, I would say, well, let's take a little second and review, why did it suck? Did it suck because you're not mentally here? Did it suck because you're not recovered enough? Why did it suck? And then should we, like, instead of just going home, you say, you go, it sucks, I'm tired, I'm just going home. Okay, well, you missed out on those accessories. So would you say, hey, I still want you to do your accessories, but let's drop them down a little bit from what we normally do, or would you try to hit them the same with the same weights and reps that you normally would?
So that's all situational. I find that generally when someone has a poor showing on their first lift, in my mind, in my experiences, it's always been mental. It's always been they've had this expectation that this day should go better than it's supposed to go to, or they just have these expectations that aren't realistic. And as a coach or as a friend or as a training partner, you need to sit down with that person and be like, okay, what was your expectation of today? And then when they tell you their expectation, you'd be like, was that realistic? Like, is it realistic that you're going to come to the gym every single day and every lift is going to fly? Every lift is going to be explosive. It's going to feel great. If that is the case, that is an unrealistic
Mm-hmm.
expectation. Obviously, you need to come into the gym excited, wanting to do what you're supposed to do, but you also have to understand the fact that there's mental, physical, hormonal, like so many different factors that can throw your day off. And to comment on the accessories, if it's because you are overtrained, then yes, obviously, you should adjust the weights, sets, reps on your accessories, so forth. But if it's just one of those things where you had this expectation where you should have been able to do this today and that wasn't the case, then I feel like you should still hit the accessories hard. I had a really bad habit when I was a power when I was coming up. Like if my lift didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I was like, okay, I have to punish myself for sucking. Like my next lift, I'm gonna do it until I throw up, or I'm gonna do it until I can't stand up. Like I have to punish myself for having a poor first showing. Uh, you could say it was a bad habit, could have been a good habit. Like it probably caused more problems than it did anything else. But that to me, that's better than just quitting. I feel like if you feel like you have to punish yourself to make up for that poor, it's almost like you care more, like you care so much, like you just want to do something to justify it. Had doing block pulls until you throw up and fall on the ground. Is that the best? Is that the best option as far as getting better? Probably not, but that hindsight, you know what I mean?
Well, I think there's some validity, and it's interesting to me because I'm not sure I ever looked at it in the way you're describing with the mentality of it, which is weird because I'm so in the mental side of it. But yeah, if you like, I hate when there's times. So if I have somebody squatting in there and they just suck, and it's just their technique's crap, like I'll drop the weight down and have them do a few reps perfect, and let them know now that was good, man. That's what we need to look at, because I don't want them leaving with that negativity.
Mhm.
Like, I want them to leave with a better insight. And I think, like you said, if it's truly they just came into their max and their mental, it's like, okay, well, you know what, you could stay here all day long and you're probably not going to get it, because you're gonna exhaust that mental capacity, and it takes so much mental capacity to do those main lifts. But you could do your accessory work and do a really good job at it, because usually it's single plane stuff, or it's a chest support. You do a chest supported row, dude. You don't have to worry. It's in a machine, so you don't need quite so much mental focus. But you can hit your 3 or 4 sets really solid, really feel your back, man. Full protraction, full retraction. Get your lats locked into it, and at least you're gonna leave going, man, I nailed my accessory stuff today. Like, I felt good. I felt like I hit everything. And then you're leaving again with that positive note, instead of having that negativity sucking you down till the next time you can come in and redeem yourself.
You're leaving with a win.
Yeah.
And as far as like being the one of the downfalls of being an online coach is you don't get the fuck's the word I'm looking for?
You're the after effect, and you don't have the instant.
It's damage control. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not you don't
Yeah.
have the convenience. You don't have the convenience of being there in person and seeing them and being like, okay, like you said, drop back down. We're gonna do some of these. I hear about it after. I hear what ensued after the fact. So it's all damage control. So now I have to like dissect and figure out, okay, why did it go wrong? What were your expectations? What did you do afterwards? This is what I would have done. And then it's just it's a lot of it's damage control, which is fine. Like you learn, it helps you learn about your
You're
client. It
you're
helps you
still
learn
you're
about training.
you're still learning. They're still learning. It's just not happening as quickly as it could.
Yeah. Mhm. As long as you identify it like that, and you're just not some horseshit coach that just lets those days happen and just like, whatever, just it'll be better next time. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
no, it
You,
won't,
you
because
had a
it's
bad
just.
day. Oh well. Like, no, that's a learning, man. That's part of learning.
Mhm.
So, a couple more questions I have for you. We're running about 2 hours and 30 minutes.
I had a question for you.
I knew this one was going to go long, which I'm cool. I'll keep recording. I don't give a shit. Okay.
Um, I just wrote an article. Like I don't know why I wrote an article because I have nowhere to put it. But I wrote an article about the best way for me to train being 40 years old and plus.
Mm-hmm.
What and I'll give my answer after you answer, but what is the best way that you have found to train people who are 40, 50, 60 plus? Whether it be reps and sets or max effort work, or like not max effort work, but like max effort for that day and whatever movement it is? Or is it like sets and reps? And I know you're probably going to throw in the caveat, well, I train people in person and I can see what they're doing. So try to think of it more along the lines of you're an online coach, you know what I mean? And you don't have that access to see them specifically. Like if you had a 50-year-old lifter, loves lifting, little beat up, still wants to strength train, they want to be strong, but how would you what is the best way to approach in your opinion?
It
If you had to pick
depends.
like a style or a genre of,
First of all,
or maybe like yourself,
it
let's say yourself. So there's no depends. Like what is the best way for you to train?
I literally train. There's no rules for me right now.
Mhm.
Like, I literally train. I think I'm going to change it, because I've literally been training how I feel. Like I have no schedule. I train what I want to train when I want to train it. And I go strictly by feel. And I think that's okay, but there's a part of me that wants a schedule again. There's a part of me that wants a more rigid way to go. But I like to try. One of the greatest things about being older and going, listen, I'm never going to do what I did before. And that's okay. That's cool. I'm not that guy that freaks out because I'm not an NFL football player anymore. Like, I don't care. The beauty of it is I can try whatever I want. Like, I don't have a competition coming up. So I can literally do whatever the hell I want to do. So, like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, you know what? I used to like that Mike Menser stuff. I'm going to throw in some Mike Menser stuff with dynamic days and max effort days. And I can try it.
Well, but you do max effort and dynamic effort. That's what I'm kind of getting at. Like,
no,
what
sometimes.
style?
I've ran 5-3-1 recently, which I kind of like. Some weeks I just do bodybuilding shit. Mm-hmm. Like I literally truly do whatever the hell I feel like doing right now. But I am going to add I think I'm going to go back to like getting myself a schedule and having a little more rigidity to it. So let's go back to everyone else. It depends. If I have a 56-year-old power lifter who the numbers he came with me wanting to do, like his lifetime, like I want to hit this. We've already blown those out of the water. And so now he's readjusting and now we're going, dude, now we can do this. Let's up it to this. Let's up it to this. And so it kind of depends. I really honestly think I love conjugate. I think conjugate is a fun way to train. You can run conjugate with quality of life people as far as I'm concerned and get great results. I have. I think the difference when you become, I don't even want to say an age because there's 40-year-old people that are completely different. There's 50-year-old people that are completely different. But one of the factors that I think you cannot ignore is as you get older, your recovery is not going to be the same. It's going to slow down. It's going to take a little more time. And especially depending on your life goals and what you want. Like I think one of the mistakes that we've made in training, we think in terms of how much can we train? How often can I train? I think we should think in terms of what's the minimum amount of training I need to do to stimulate growth? Then how quickly can I recover from that? I think we need to flip our switch because we don't get stronger in the gym. We break ourselves down in the gym. If you train beyond the stimulation of growth, all you're doing is extending the time it's going to take to recover. So if you're already older and you know recovery is going to be a factor, change your thought process. Go, I need to worry about optimizing my recovery. And one of the ways to optimize your recovery is being in better shape, doing recovery sessions, flexibility, mobility. So instead of going, hey, I need all these heavy sessions in the gym, why don't you go, let's try 2 intense sessions in the gym, and then let's try adding in all these other things. Like I've had very good luck training people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s doing 2 heavy a week, 2 lighter recovery sessions a week, and then also trying to fit some other stuff in. Like I want walks, I want hill sprints, I love just taking people to the park and go, dude, we're going to do 40-yard sprints and the same things you did when you played football in high school. We're going to do high kicks, we're going to do straddle runs, we're going to do karaoke. Like get out and get moving. One of the biggest problems I see with people as they get older, they stop moving.
Uh-huh.
And you see this with powerlifters. The guys are so tight. They're so fucked up. They can't move. They can't throw. It's like, dude, get out and move. Just fucking move. That's going to be one of the best things you can do. So, I mean, I think there's still, it depends. What are you looking for? What is the shape of the person that you're dealing with? How often have they trained? Have they not trained? Like I have a client who didn't start training until he was like 72. And I'm like, other than the fact that he was a carpenter, beat the crap out of himself, he didn't have some of the injuries that a lot of people that lifted their whole life had. I mean, so I think that literally the biggest difference is as you get older, you're not going to recover as well. Now, if you got a guy that's 55 and he retired, he might not recover as well, but he's got all goddamn day now to recover. Like he can get his sleep. He's got time to get the nutrition in. But I generally think, like a lot of guys I start with now, I changed it. I used to try to train people as much as I could. Now I'm like, why don't I start with less? Because I can add more in later. Like, let's start with less and see how they do. And if they're kicking ass and I never need to deload them, hey, let's add another heavy session in this week and for a couple months and see what happens.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
Is going to the bathroom an option?
Yeah. I just added out. I added out like the really slow parts. I'll probably leave in like, hey, can I go pee?
Show people I'm polite. Because I have found so this I have like a 5-year plan to get back to the platform.
Mm-hmm.
The first year was I completely took a year off powerlifting. Probably one of the hardest years of my life. I took off a year of powerlifting, and this is year number 2 that I'm in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And year 2 is just I'm starting over from scratch, relearning how to squat, bench, and deadlift, starting over from scratch. But I'm trying to get to a 405 bench press, which I did last night.
I saw that.
Very, very, very ecstatic. It's been years since I benched 405. But anyway, my first initial approach was, okay, I'm just going to go by percentages. And I'm not going to start out like, I'm going to take percentages off 405 because I want to bench 405. Like, no, I'm nowhere near that. I started out like, okay, I want to bench 275. So I used percentage work, like 4 or 5 weeks, 85, like 70, 75, 80. And then once I benched 275, deloaded. Okay, now I want to bench 315, use percentages. By the time I got to like 365, working with percentages, it was killing my body. It was killing like my shoulders, my elbows, my pec tendons, like everything was just hurting. And so I decided, okay, what if I try max effort work? And every single day that I benched, which was max effort day, my goal was to have at least 400 minimum pounds in my hands, whether it had been from chain weight, band weight, reverse bands. Like my last set at lockout should have over 400 pounds in it. So I'm always feeling 400 pounds, but it was always max effort singles. So whatever I did, boards, no boards, floor press, whatever, it was always a max effort single. And by doing that, I was able to get to a 405 bench press and with no issues. Like doing a max effort single, whatever I had to offer on that day. It wasn't like I was trying to do as much as I possibly could. As long as I got to like 400 pounds total weight at the top, I just stopped there. And I found that even though you might think that lifting max effort wise for singles, that would have more wear and tear on your body. For me, the mid weights, like the 70 to 85% for reps and sets, that did way more damage to my body than lifting for max effort singles. And I'm starting to realize that maybe that's how I need to train, even though it kind of doesn't make sense. You'd think lifting heavy singles all the time would have worse wear and tear on your body. But for me, I benched 405 last night. I don't feel anything today. Like I don't feel anything in my upper body. I'm fine. As opposed to if I did, 85% for 3 sets of 3 or whatever. I was just destroyed.
Okay, here's a couple thoughts. First one, you said doing the percentages, you were getting all this joint pain and all this other stuff happening. All that stuff happens because you're overtrained. Maybe you just needed a little more time in between those sessions to heal up a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go in and you do your max at 405, but the other way was 385 for 3 sets of whatever, look at it from a volume standpoint.
Yeah.
Of course the other
Well,
one's
yeah,
wearing
yeah,
you out. It's a whole lot more volume.
yeah. That's what I'm like figuring out that I can't handle that type of volume. I can handle the heavyweights for less sets, and it got me to my goal faster
How do
than.
you know you can't handle them? Have you tried doing the percentages with more time off?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, this
Then the
is
question.
this is where it's all really funny to me, and I don't. Part of me goes, Chad, you're a genius, and part of me goes, yeah, you're just a regular dude. Um, but like, strength training is this equation. It's like having an equalizer, an old school, like back in hi-fi days where you had an equalizer and you had all these knobs and you want to get the sound just perfect. Well, you got to tweak each one of these knobs. You got to go every little thing to get that perfect sound. Well, training is the same way. You got to get the right volume with the right recovery. You got to work the right force with the right, or you got to write the right mass with acceleration to get the perfect force. So you're going to be punching things in on and off all the time. And your first thought was, this one's not working because I'm feeling beat up. Well, maybe the answer was more time to recover. And then you went, no, I'm going to go to max effort, which I'm a max effort guy. So like I'm like kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit here,
Yeah.
just to prove a point.
Mhm.
Okay, so you the other one, you can't say the other one didn't work. You can say you chose not to add in enough recovery to allow it to work. So you went to a program that actually probably had less volume so you could recover faster or recover better. So instead of changing your recovery, you changed your program. And what I have with a lot of people, I've consulted and helped so many people who are simply overtraining. And it's funny, I find it so interesting that I can talk to a guy and go, hey, have you ever tried adding more off days in your split? No. I go, well, why not? Because it won't work. I go, but you just said you never did it. So how do you know it won't work? I just know it won't work. I go, okay, well, the problem that you're having and you've plateaued and you're not gaining and you're beat up, what have you tried to fix this? Well, I tried training more. I figured I needed more. And I go, how did that work? I got more beat up and I got hurt. So now I'm back doing what I did before. And I go, and what else have you tried? Well, I've tried that before too. I go, so you'll keep trying doing more, even though you know it doesn't work. You've experienced it not working, but you'll keep trying it. And you will not try backing off. And I'm like, do you understand? Like, step back and listen to what I just said. Do you understand how illogical what you're doing is? Like, it makes no sense. Yeah, but I just know it won't work. And I'm like, no, you just don't want to train any less. You just don't want to give yourself time off. And I've even had guys that I get to start backing off. And they're texting me. They're like, dude, Chad, what is this voodoo bullshit you got me doing? Like, I'm PRing every fucking week. And I feel good and I'm not beat up. What the hell is this magic voodoo shit you got me on? And I'm like, recovery? You're actually recovering. You're actually giving yourself time to grow. And then what'll happen is 6 or 7 months later, I'll call them up and, hey, how's it going? They're going, I'm pretty beat up and I don't know, my numbers aren't doing that great. And I go, well, you're still doing what I programmed you for, that what we talked about, right? They're like, no, I added more days, more training days back in. And I go, why? It was working. And they're like, yeah, but I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't training enough. And I just felt like I needed to train more. And I'm like, fucking feels, man. Nobody cares how you fucking feel. Are you doing better? Then fucking don't change it. And then eventually I'll yell at them enough that they go back to where they were. And then they start making gains again. And I'm like, why are people so opposed to having time off? Why are people so opposed to getting time to recover? And then in the same thing, even you mentioned earlier, being in shape is going to help you. Okay, if you have less hard training days in the gym, now you have time to do plyometrics. Now you have time to take Freya to the park and go run around or go play catch with her, which is going to be great for your shoulders. I wish I could get power lifters to like take a day to go play catch. If you got a team, there should be a day where you're like, oh, hey, today we're meeting at the park and we're going to throw the football, or we're going to throw the baseball, or we're going to play hot box, or we're going to play volleyball. I don't have a group right now. I need to try to find some more guys. I would take them to the park across the street, give them a 20-pound volleyball, and put them on the volleyball court. And I'm like, of course you're going to catch it and throw it, but basically don't let it hit the ground. And they have a fucking blast, and they're diving and shit and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But they're getting out and they're moving and they're using their shoulders and using their back and they're getting in shape. And they're actually fucking moving. And and you can see the effect within a very short period of time. So I don't understand why people are so opposed to having time off. Like, I mean, dude.
Depends on it. It just comes back to their why. You know, why are you at the gym?
Mm-hmm.
Are you at the gym to get better? Or are you at the gym for your mental health? Are you at the gym to socialize? You know,
Well,
it all comes back to the why.
But even then, it goes deeper. Even if you're like, dude, seriously, I want to be the best in the world and I'm going to do what it takes. There's this deep-seated more is better thinking. And I get this because I'm blue collar and I thought that way for a long, long time.
I think it's that they don't want to do less. It's not that in my mind, it's not like doing more is better. Like I don't want to ever be seen doing less than somebody else.
Yeah.
I always want to be doing as much, if not more, but I never want to be doing less. It's like the whole saying, like, I don't like to win.
Less can be more.
I don't like to win. I just hate to lose. You know, that kind of thing. Like that's one of those sayings.
So my example for this is I grew up around construction. Grew up on job sites. When I really started working full-time on the job site, I'm like, dude, none of these old motherfuckers, I'm going to outwork at every one of these old motherfuckers. Not a problem, man. So I'm carrying all the wood I can. I'm like, we got air compressors that like have wheels and shit, and I'm picking them up and carrying them. Like I'm working my ass off. And eventually I noticed at the end of the day, all these guys that I'm out working framed more walls than I did. They actually got more work done in the day than I did. And I went, that's kind of fucking stupid. Yeah, I'm out working them. I'm doing more work than them, but they're getting more work done. So what the hell's the point of all this work that I'm doing? And I thought,
find the line.
Why don't I learn from them and their efficiency and then do that faster? Instead of just running around doing shit, but I'm not efficient, why don't I learn to be more efficient? And it was the same thing when guys were on the APF Outlaw Forum bagging on Chad. Chad only works out 2 days a week. Chad does this, Chad does that. And I knew most of them. And I actually like him because at least back then those guys were not hiding behind a name. You knew who it actually was. Mm-hmm. And I'd write him back and go, listen, dude, I'll help you out if you want, man. Because, you know, I'm obviously out totaling you by like 400 pounds. So maybe instead of bitching about what I'm doing, you might want to listen to me. No. I know how much I need to do. And like, well, really? Then why aren't you beating me? They never had an answer to that one. And I'm like, at least try it. What is it going to hurt to try doing less? Like, you'll try doing more. Why won't you try doing less? Maybe if you do less, your sessions, you'll have more good sessions. You'll be able to push even further. Like, I'm not even saying it's the answer because when I trained my team, I had guys that could sleep good. I had some guys that had great genetics. They recovered well. They all trained more than me, but I still had them training less than everyone else. Like when Scott was lifetime drug free. Scott does 1,000-pound squat. He's pulling 800 pounds and he's benching 700 pounds. he's training 2 heavy sessions a week. And he didn't even want to do that. When we went from basically a 12-day split to a 14-day split, he said he was not going to do it and he was going to train on his own. And that was the one time I went, you know what? I try to treat this like a democracy, but I'm fucking king. And this is what we're fucking doing because you fucking need it. He had like a 900-pound squat. Going to 14 days, within like, I think it was 3 or 4 months, he did 1,000. And we went to the meet and he does 1,000 and I'm just grinning. And he just walks by me and he's like, shut the fuck up. And I go, yeah, 14, I'll be undertrained. He didn't want to do it. I forced him to do it. What did his numbers do? They jumped again. Throughout the whole time that I've added days in, everybody on my team, their strength went up every time I added more rest days in. And we're not talking fucked up guys like me. We're talking guys that sleep, guys that had decent genetics. I had guys, big guys, I had little guys, I had all kinds of different guys. Every one of them got stronger every time I gave them another rest day. I honestly can't think of a person who didn't get stronger that I added more days in on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's hard to do. I can't tell you why. It's just, I don't know if it's ego or the way we were raised, but it's just hard. It's hard. It's a hard thing to let go of. That's for sure.
I going from 8 days to 10 days, going from 10 to 12, going from 12 to 14. Every single time I spent months going, man, we need more days off. Like we need more. I mean, I would spend months talking myself into it because I had that blue collar, more is better, more is better, more is better. And it's bullshit. Because if more is better, why don't you train 7 days a week? Why don't you train 4 hours a day? Because more is not better, that's why. Trust me, if it would have worked, I would have did that. The worst thing in my career was having Dave point out to me that if I really wanted to be the best, I needed more days off. I mean, that was the hardest thing for me, but as I said, it turned out to be one of the best. But
yeah,
that's the way it is. What do you really want to do? People want to talk about how badass they are. People want to talk about how much they sacrifice. Well, if you want to sacrifice, try doing less. Otherwise, don't tell me you're tough and don't tell me you're a badass because you won't do it. And I don't understand. Like there's plenty of guys in history that you can go through. Tom Platz, I saw a thing with Tom Platz. He's like, yeah, I trained every 2 weeks. He goes, I squatted every 2 weeks because I couldn't recover from those sessions, man. He's like, there's no way. If I would have trained squats every week, I would have never got big. But people don't want to hear that. They want to see videos of Tom Platz squatting like a crazy man. And then they want to tell themselves that he did it twice a week. They don't want to know the truth. And I get it. I get the mentality because I had that mentality. But what I don't understand is why we don't learn from it eventually. And you got guys that are, no, I'm fine on 4 days a week. And I'm like, really? Well, why are your shoulders so tight? Why do you have all these muscle problems? Why do you have to roll around for 45 minutes before you squat? I'm 52. There's plenty of days where I just go out and start throwing weight on the bar and squat. And I was one of the best in the world. So what the fuck is your problem? You're 24. Like the problem is you're beat the shit and you're not recovering. Yet you don't want to see the truth. And it's funny because even with, I love all the guys up at Kabuki. There's so many cool people that work there and there's so many smart people that work there. You know, and they sell all kinds of this modality stuff. But when you go up there and talk to them, they'll admit, we didn't design this shit for you to do it every day just so you can train. This shit was designed so you could heal up and get better. But people don't want to use it for that. Like if you need to roll for 20 minutes before you squat, you're obviously overtrained. You have bad movement patterns. Something is wrong because you shouldn't have to do that. But people, oh, that's just part of it. That's just part of it. That's what you got to do to be a power lifter. Fucking says who? Like I don't understand where we just keep buying into all this horse shit. That could be our ego. We want to make ourselves sound tougher and badder. And I'm like, oh, you're beating the crap out of yourself. Big tough guy. I don't give a fuck. Like the tough guy wins. The tough guy breaks the records. As far as I'm concerned, you let some fucking asshole like me who doesn't sleep come in and beat your record. If you sleep and you recover and you got genetics, why the fuck did you let me beat you? Because you couldn't get past your ego?
Yeah.
And I'm not, and there are guys out there that can train at that pace and that can keep up with it and can do it. So I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I'm saying, listen, it seems to be more intelligent to start a little bit on the less end and then build up instead of starting on the intense end. Because then you're never going to want to back off.
Mm-hmm.
Like be a little undertrained instead of overtrained. Because undertrained is going to be way healthier and it's going to let you last a whole lot longer.
Yeah.
And I think you're finding that out with like Wendler and even talking to Vinny the other day. Like there's a lot of us that are looking back going, man, we beat the shit out of ourselves and that doesn't need to happen like that. Like less sometimes is a whole lot more.
Yeah. But we got what we wanted. So it's hard to look back at it. You could also say, like,
Not
I
for
could
me.
have had more.
Yeah, for me, there's always more. I actually look back on my career a lot, and it's not me going, oh, poor me, I'm not as strong now. Oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. I'm looking back to go, wait a minute, what could I have done better? Because now I coach people, and I actually give a shit how my people do. So I'm going to go back and analyze my career and find out what I could have done better, what I should have done.
Oh yeah,
I'll sit here
with that. Like,
I'll sit here right now and go, you know, my suicidal shit, you know, me being awake for fucking 2 weeks, that's my fault. I caused it. Because I didn't learn fast enough what overtraining can do to you, and more specifically, what overtraining can do to somebody like me who already has these issues. It was my fault. I almost killed myself, and it's my fault.
mm-hmm.
All I can do now is go, wait a minute, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to help more people.
My lifters learn from my mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like mobility work, core work, conditioning, that's non-negotiable. Like that's not like they're never, well, they might, but it's my goal for them not to make the mistakes I made.
Right.
And I'm equipped now with the tools to help them prevent that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's things like core work, mobility, that's just non-negotiable. That's happening. You know what I mean? Like, and you'll thank me later.
Like, yeah, one of the ones I use, I love winning warm-ups.
Mhm.
Everybody fucking hates them when they first doing them.
Mhm.
And then they go do a competition or something and they're like, wow, I was in pretty good shape, man. That was actually kind of cool to get through a meet and not be worn to shit.
Mhm.
And I go, that's the way you should be. Like one of the mistakes we made, and I was still in decent shape compared to some of the heavyweights, but I needed to be in better shape.
Mhm.
Like there were super heavyweights that couldn't walk through the airport without stopping and resting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, dude, you're not recovering your best. You're not putting up your biggest numbers. Like you're fucked up. Like if you can't walk more than a couple hundred yards, you're fucked up. But we didn't know. We didn't know then.
I was never that bad.
No, it was bad. There was a couple people that were really bad. But I think that's one of the mistakes we made. I will not let my guys, like you said, my guys will not be in, they're always going to be in better shape than I was in. And the sad part is I was in good shape and that's my fault. I looked at them and went, well, fuck, compared to them, I'm in great shape. And that's dumb. That's dumb to even do that. I should have went, no, I don't give a shit what they're doing. What shape should I be in? And even with my pushing myself beyond where I was, one of my biggest problems was I kept going, but god damn, I'm already training way less than anyone else. Like that, it just, I can't train less. If I was to go back and do it again with the same knowledge I have now, I would have did one heavy one a week, and all the rest of them would have been lighter. Because it ain't my fault. Like, it ain't my fault I can't sleep. Like, it's the cards I was dealt, and I need to play them the best I can. I didn't play them. I played them pretty good, but I didn't play them the best I can. Speaking of cards again.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. It's interesting to me. And I had Wendler on here, and I want to get him on again, but he's hard to get a hold of. Because like he kind of went off and did completely different. He kind of threw it all out the window and said, "No, here's what I think. I'm going to try this." And that's it's hard to do. It's hard to take that jump. Especially like, and I get it. If you're a high lifter, I mean, the same reason I didn't back off more than I did, it's the same reason somebody now, I tell them, hey, you're training too much. They're like, but nobody else is doing this. Like, how can I'm already high level. I don't want to lose it. I worked so hard for this. And it's like, first of all, you're not going to lose anything. Like, you're training a couple times less a week. At worst, you won't get any better. Like, that's the worst thing that's going to happen. You won't get any stronger. But you could get way stronger, and you could feel way better, and you could heal up. So but I understand. I mean, I understand it's hard for people to do.
Yeah.
But in my experience, the harder it is, the better the reward's going to be. So that brings me to a question. Now,
Yes,
first of all, your Instagram is Strength Realized. You have two. You have Strength Realized.
just the one. Like I thought I deleted my other one, but I guess I just signed out of it. I don't ever. I It was too. I had my one that has my name on it, Marshall Johnson. It was just this huge toxic fucking. It just everything that either triggered you or like I don't know why I followed all these things that made me angry or it was like Instagram girls. It's just all this toxic shit that just made my life worse. And I'm just like, I'm I'm just gonna use my coaching one, and if I want to post something about myself, I will. But the point of it won't be myself. The point of it will be like my clients and
Yes.
education and education for my clients. And I'm not even gonna open like I haven't even opened my other one in months, year, like probably a year. So I don't use that other one. This one is a lot more productive, a lot more useful, better use of my time.
Yeah.
And that one's the Strength Realized one.
Yeah, but my point is just what you said. Like, if you guys aren't following him, follow him. You get to see he's got a lot of cool guys on his team. I forget all their names, but and it's cool to watch their progress. But Marshall posts some really really cool shit, and some stuff that'll kind of get you thinking. So like, if you don't follow him, go follow him because there's a lot of cool shit that he posts on there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And for the longest time, I never posted stuff because I had this inferiority complex. Kind of like what people did with lifting. Like people would always get discouraged that someone was stronger than them
Mm-hmm.
and they wouldn't want to lift. And I never understood that because as a lifter, I never had that inferiority complex. Like I never got depressed because somebody was stronger or somebody in my weight class was stronger than me. But like as an aspiring coach now, for whatever reason, I have that inferiority complex. I was always paranoid that if I posted a video talking about training or whatever based on my experiences, someone smarter than me would come on and tell me I'm wrong or I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And I dealt with that for the longest time. And I recognize that. I'm like, this didn't bother me in lifting because there's always going to be someone stronger. There's always going to be somebody better. There's always going to be somebody smarter than me. So why should I worry about? It's just my point of view. It's just based on my experiences. So
Yeah.
it's not wrong. So the last couple months it's been a lot easier for me to just post. Like, I don't give a fuck if somebody disagrees with me anymore. I don't give a fuck if somebody's going to correct me. It's just, this is my point of view from what, based on my personal experiences and what I've read, and it is what it is. And if they don't like it, then they won't follow me. And if they like it, they'll follow me. So it's just,
We
that's, yeah.
I call that an imposter syndrome. And actually, I think again with AJ, AJ's really smart. We were talking about that, and he had mentioned something like, I don't want a coach that doesn't have imposter syndrome. Because like if you're if that's like saying you're the master of quantum physics.
Yeah.
Dude, nobody's the master of quantum physics. We don't get it yet. Like, so to me, if you go, oh, I know everything about strength, oh, bullshit. That just tells me you don't know strength. You don't
Mhm.
understand the complexities to it and the complexities of individuals, and the again the quantum level of things that happen between your mind and your body, and like nobody knows it. Like, nobody has it completely down. But I do think you post a lot of cool stuff, and I think it's interesting to watch your journey from where you were to your injury and how you're growing, and mentally the stuff that's going on. Do you, and this is a tough question. I've been asked this question before. Like, looking back on your career, what are some of the major things you would coach different than what you did at this point?
The hard part was, I, it's not that my my problems didn't arise later in my career, like injuries, whatever, because I wasn't doing something and I knew I wasn't doing it. It's not like, oh, if I went back, I would have done, more of this because I was lazy, or I wasn't doing something because I just didn't want to do it. I was doing everything that I thought I was supposed to do. It
Mm-hmm.
just turned out that some of those things were completely wrong and I was completely oblivious to it. You know what I mean? Like, in my mind, I was training as hard as I could. I was recovering as hard as I could. In my mind, I was doing everything right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the hard part. If I were to go back, I absolutely, core would have been a priority. Conditioning would have been a priority. Mobility would have been a priority. You know what I mean? It wasn't just this dick in the dirt, train until you pass out, like you were talking about before, like more isn't better. But that was just kind of like my mentality that more was better. I need to be the hardest working person in the room and I took pride in that. Um, I think you have to have that a little bit. Anybody who wants to excel at something, I feel like they have to have that mentality, but I think you also need to have the flexibility mentally to at least at some point in your career be like, okay, this isn't working anymore, or maybe this wasn't the best approach. You need to find a better, more efficient way. And I gradually found that because I got a coach who taught me a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Well,
like the easy answer would be like core work and mobility. That would be one of the things I would absolutely change.
which you kind of already mentioned. You're like, my guys will not be out of shape. They will have their mobility. So like, that's kind of something you already mentioned that you hit. It's interesting
Mhm.
though, because like, I look back and I go, okay, did I need to do these things to get where I was?
Mhm.
And is there a way that I can help somebody get through that without going through that phase, leaving them new mistakes to make to reach the next level? Like, because really, I think if you boil down strength, in order to help people keep getting stronger, we got to figure out how to gain strength quicker with less errors in between there. Like, that's the key, because you only have so much
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I guess that made me think of something. In my mind, being strong meant you had a strong lower back,
Mm-hmm.
and I would destroy my lower back. Like it just annihilate it, like stupid, like doing rack pulls until you threw up, like I would put, like, I saw a lot of the stuff was based on what Chuck Vogelpool was doing. I would do things called Vogelpools where I would put a safety bar on my back and then I would do rack pulls with the bar and I would just do that stupid shit until I passed out or I couldn't walk. Like total annihilation of my lower back was what I thought was right. And I did not accompany that with core work to balance it.
Yeah.
And Louis Simmons has an amazing quote. He said, lifters with a strong back and a weak core always hurt their back. And that was me. Like my back was bulletproof until it wasn't. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I could do hanging good mornings with 500-600 pounds for reps. Like I I just lived on low back stuff because I thought that's what strong was, like having a strong lower
Yeah.
back.
But I think that goes to, and the human body is this way, and I think life is this way. Because when I talk about balance, everyone's like, you can't have balance, and I go, yes, you can. You can't have equal balance, but you can have balance, and I think the body's like that too. You're like, back's getting stronger, core's getting weaker,
Yeah,
and you're fine, and you're fine,
yeah.
and you're
Until
fine,
you're not.
and then
Until
eventually
you're
it
not.
goes boom, and the whole scale gets knocked
Yeah.
over.
Exactly. That's what it was. Like my back was bulletproof until it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like I thought I had an invincible lower back.
And so that's an interesting thing because my first part of my brain goes, was the overtraining his back?
Oh,
But
I
maybe
I
you weren't. Maybe you were. Maybe you weren't. Maybe if you would have added in more core, you would have been fine.
yeah, that could be. Yeah. Yeah. I watched it, one of the most amazing things I ever saw was Chuck Vogelpool was squatting 1,100 pounds. He came out of the hole, fell forward, caught it, adjusted, and then continued to squat. I'm like, how the fuck did a human being just catch 1,100 pounds, reverse it, and then finish it? And I watch his videos, like, well, he does like good mornings, hanging good mornings. He kills his lower back. So like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I have to do. And that became like the mantra of my training was I have to have a bulletproof lower back without understanding that at Westside, Louis, he was more about core work, but that's not, that's not like sexy, that's
Yeah.
not awesome or entertaining, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's interesting too because I think that I recently went back and was started to look up some of the because I can play around with stuff now. I started looking up some of Mike Mentzer's stuff that I did when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and I totally took away. I took when I was a kid. I took what I wanted and
Mhm.
threw away the rest, and ran with it. And so to go back
Took the fun.
and re-look into it, I'm like, that's so interesting how my perception is so different now than it was.
Mhm.
Before it was like, oh, train heavy, train crazy, do this. I'm like, fuck yeah. How many days a week can I do this? 7, perfect.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no, he really, really emphasizes recovery. How the hell did I miss that? Like that part just totally said bye bye to my brain. It was like super intense. That's what I want to hear. I'm done.
That's not fun. That's not
Yeah.
fun. That's not flashy. You're not a badass because you rest,
Yeah.
you're a badass because you go to the gym and you slay demons. Like that
Mm-hmm.
makes you a badass,
And it's just interesting over all that time how my perception has changed and how I look at it and where it was like my whole life or most of my whole life it was more like okay, even when I started learning more about recovery it was like okay, well what's the maximum amount I can train? And now I'm like no, I still have goals that I want to do. I don't care if I do them in competition or not. So why am I still looking at how much can I train? I need to be looking at how little can I train and make gains? How much can I recover and my training is going to equal that? Like I look at it like almost the opposite of what I used to. And it
I get
literally
it.
is about progress.
I get it. Yeah, I recently, um, look, in therapy, I'm learning that I'm a huge control freak. I have to control everything, and trying to control everything actually puts you out of control because life is changing. The only constant thing in life is change. And if you try to resist change, it's going to happen without you. And the only difference is that change is going to happen without your guidance. Like someone or something else is going to steer your ship. But if you accepted the fact that things are going to change, I can accept that, and then at least I can steer the ship. I accepting that it's going to change, I can at least steer the ship where I want it to go. And I was training 6 days a week. I made myself just for the thought of how can I work with this control issue? Like I'm going to train 5 days a week now instead of six. So I just on a whim, I cut a day out. And that's just so stupid how hard it was to cut one day training. To go from 6 days to five was stupid hard. But I have found that mentally I feel a lot better and physically I feel a lot better. You know what I mean? So maybe I'll break it down to four one of these days, but right now the gym is what I do for fun.
Here,
So until I find something to do that's not the gym.
so and that's why I think powerlifters need to fucking have hobbies. There's
Yeah.
other shit in life. Find something else. But I think we take pride in like, no, I'm fucking 100% into powerlifting. I go, well, no, you're not, because you're doing it too much and you're not getting what you wanted. And if you're really into powerlifting, you'd find something outside the gym. But I think that perspective again, you say you're a control freak, but not really, because you can't not go to the gym. If you can't not go to the gym, you're not in control. And I don't know if I ever told you this story, but when one of the things when my depression was really bad was the desert. I fucking love the desert. I love the mountains. I would be so depressed. I would hop on my dirt bike or my Razor quad, whatever I had, take one of my trucks out, haul ass up to the top of a mountain, and I would go sit on a cliff and just look at the desert for like fucking 6 hours. I wouldn't even move. I would just sit right there. And that could have possibly saved my life. So at one point I went, damn, do I need the desert? Do I have to have the desert? Like, what if I didn't have the desert to go out to?
Yeah, you talked to Dave about that one, yeah.
And so I took a year and I wouldn't let myself go out to the desert. That's how much of a control freak I am. Like, I had to know if it was a tool or a crutch.
But what I'm learning with that is I try to control things that cannot be controlled, and I don't control the things that I can control. I worry about things that are going to happen in the present. There's things that I could be taking control of right now that will prevent future problems.
Mm-hmm.
But I am neglecting those because I'm worried about controlling something that hasn't even fucking happened yet,
Right.
or may not ever happen. And while I'm worrying about that thing, the thing I could control is turning into a problem. You know what I mean?
True.
So if
That's
I
very
just
true.
so if I just fucking control what you can control. Control your controllables. And anything outside past or future, you can't control that shit. So I'm working very hard on controlling my controllables, and that is helping some. Yeah.
I think for me, that's something I'm always working on, but I'm working on it more in terms of, and I have a huge problem with our society who is teaching people that the external world controls their feelings. And it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm out driving and somebody cuts me off, he didn't make me angry. He cut me off. That's what he did. He cut me off. How I feel is my choice. So again, that's the external world. I can't make it so no one ever cuts me off.
Or never offends you.
Or never offends me. But I can control how I feel. And if I want to, and it's the same thing. Like I'll be like, son of a bitch. And then I'm like, Chad, do you feel like being pissed off right now? And I'll go, yeah, no, I don't. I don't want to be pissed off right now. And then I'm like, fuck you, whatever. I don't give a shit. Like, it's over. It's done. I can't change it.
You're controlling your controllables.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think again, that's one of those things that expands past the gym. Because if you think about it this way, if I get pissed off and now I spend the rest of my day angry, I'm in a sympathetic state. If I'm in a sympathetic state, how much energy am I burning? How well is my body recovering? So now I'm affecting the training session I did yesterday because I'm not going to recover as good as I can. And I'm affecting my next training session because I'm wasting energy. So that little being cut off affects the gym training. Like it affects everything in your life. And it might
Yeah.
even, you may even go into that parasympathetic or the sympathetic state and you never get back into parasympathetic. So it fucks your sleep up that night.
Mm-hmm.
Again, more recovery. You come home and you're in a bad mood and you're pissed off. You get in a fight with your wife because you're agitated. Did you could have stopped that. I mean, it's much bigger than it sounds.
Yeah, your body doesn't understand stress, whether it be physical or mental. Like Louis talked about that. He was like, your body doesn't know if it was stress from the gym or stress from life. It just knows it got beat up.
Yes.
It doesn't know if your body is beat up, whether it's from physical stress of training or the mental stresses that you put on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like your body just knows it got beat up. It doesn't know if it's from this, that, or the other thing. So that's a very awesome point that if you're allowing yourself to be stressed out, that's affecting your training. You might not think it is, but it's affecting your recovery.
Mm-hmm. And here's an interesting thing about me. Not interesting, just means I'm a fucking human, basically. When I was competing, I remember one thing from the movie Pumping Iron where Arnold talked about, I can't let those things bother me. If somebody steals my car, I'm going to call my insurance company, but I'm not going to get upset about it. I have training sessions. Yeah. If my dad passes away, that's sad, but I have things to do. So I was really, really good when I was competing about blowing things off.
Yeah.
And then kind of when I had to lay off of competing because of my mental health and stuff, and I started getting better, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to do this. I started letting things bother me. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until a few years back that I'm like, wait a minute, Chad, what the fuck are you doing, man? It made sense then. It makes sense now. Why are you doing, why is it okay now to let these things piss you off? Just because you don't have a meet coming up does it mean you want to be pissed off? No, you want to recover as best you can. You want to be as healthy as you can. Why would you let this stuff bother you? Mm-hmm. And again, that's like, to me, if you're a true control freak, you would learn to do this because you want to control what you can control. And that kind of goes down to, I've had a lot of people ask me how I can get on a podcast and talk about the suicide and talk about depression. They're like, dude, you're this big, strong guy. How can you get on this program and cry? And I go, because to me, if I'm a big, strong badass that I say I am, I can talk about anything. I can open up about anything. To me, if you can't open up, you ain't that badass. You ain't that strong.
Well, a part of mental health is good and bad. You need to be able to live in all realms. You can't suppress emotions.
Yeah.
So if you can't cry, or if you can't unleash that side of yourself, you're suppressing things. Like you have to be able to experience highs, lows, mids, and be able to come fine out of it. You can't just be this ultra tight sense of like, I'm never getting sad about anything. I'm never crying. Fuck you. Like
you gotta
can't
feel
live
it and
like
let
that.
it go. But what I'm saying is like, people can't believe that I can do that publicly.
Yeah, well, that's.
And I go, to me, it's easy. Level. Either you're a badass or you're not. If you're a badass, you can express how you feel anywhere, and you don't give two shits who sees it. That's a badass to me. But then there's a lot of guys that go, no, a badass shoves it down, and he doesn't talk about it. He doesn't have feelings. I go, to me, that's not a badass. That's a guy who's avoiding life, man. He's too scared. He's too scared to let it out. So that's just vulnerable. Like perception to me, how you perceive things.
Yeah, you're scared to be vulnerable.
Yeah. So this is gonna be the longest podcast I've done, I think. There's one I cannot have. It hasn't felt. No, it hasn't felt long at all.
It feels like we just started talking.
There's one thing I cannot have you on my podcast without you talking about.
You can take that push story and shove it up your ass.
Chad Ikes ruined my deadlift. Every now and then, I don't know if it's Instagram or whatever, but you like re-release that story and it makes my fucking day every time. I laugh so hard at that.
Okay, so I had a deadlift only, or no, a full power meet at the USPA in Las Vegas at the Olympia, and I'd known Chad well enough through Elite FTS to where he volunteered to come down and help. My wife Kathy lifted that day too, so Chad volunteered to come down and help us, handle us, encourage us, whatever. And deadlifts were coming up for me, and I'd always seen in videos, like when Chad was competing or like Andy Bolton, it, whenever they're getting ready to do like their max effort lifts, like their handler would like get in their face and then like push each other, and then like right at the last minute, like Chad or Andy Bolton would like push their handler and they'd go flying out of the way. And I was like, this is my time, like this is my moment. I'm gonna do that. And it comes up to my last deadlift, and I'm ready. I'm pumped for the deadlift. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. This is my moment. And I get up there and I get in Chad's face, he gets in mine, and we start butting our foreheads together. And I go to push him, and he doesn't fucking move. Like he doesn't like. I think I moved backwards. I think I pushed myself away from him, and that immediately, like all of my intensity like was like I was immediately flaccid, like if I had a boner, like my intensity boner just went flaccid, and I completely missed the deadlift. Like I was defeated. And I honestly don't know if he realized it on meet day or if it took like weeks or months later for him to know what happened, but I think he did it on purpose. Like, I think he ruined my deadlift on purpose. He was like, someday someday this guy's gonna out total me, and I have to get my shots in now.
I
So yeah, I went to push him, and he didn't even fucking budge. I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, I think their handlers like played it up and let them push him, and I think Chad was like, "You're pushing me."
I honestly did not know that till the first time I saw that video. So like the best time was the first time I saw it was the best time because I was fucking I had probably had tears. I was rolling. I just remember thinking, "What are you doing? If you want to go, like push me out of the way. What's up?"
That was the first and last time I tried to be like aggro before, like trying to be like a badass and strong and like pose my will. And that was the first and last time I ever tried that. From then on, it was all internal. All everything, tree lift was all internal.
That was that's that the I should have videoed myself the first time you posted that and I watched it. I laughed because I'm like, Chad likes ruined my deadlift. Like, what the fuck's he talking? What?
It was my like Steve Goggins was there.
You
And it was
looked
like it was
good
my
though. You
chance.
had your
It was
beard back then and everything. And
everything. It was like my chance to shine in front of Steve Goggins, and then yeah. Mm. Well, luckily Steve's a good guy and he likes me despite it. So
Steve's an awesome. Steve's so cool.
Steve's amazing. Like before I met Steve, like somebody had told him that I was a piece of shit, and he kind of was hesitant towards me. And then he's like, "I met you," and I'm like, "I don't know what the fuck that guy was talking about, but yeah, you're not." Like, and I was like, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that."
Yeah, Steve's pretty. Steve's cool. I like Steve a lot.
He's fun. He's a hoot, especially in person. Like I got to, luckily through Elite FTS and some other things, I was able to hang out with Steve for a couple days for pretty good lengths amount of time. And Steve's awesome. He's fun.
He's another one of those guys where, like, if you get to spend time with Ed Cohn, if you get to spend time with Goggins, like, you just learn all these great little tidbits, like just hanging out with them and talking training and talking life and like they have all these good little tidbits that are just amazing pieces of advice.
I appreciate their modesty more than anything else. Like Ed Cohn is the
Actually,
GOAT.
both of them.
I will argue that with anybody, but Ed Cohn is the GOAT. And you would not know that from hanging out with him. Like he is so modest. Like the first time I met him, he bought me supper. Like the first time I met him, he bought me dinner. He's come to Fargo for seminars, and I went out to dinner. Like the dude is just amazing. Like he'll sit down and he'll talk to you for an hour like
Mm-hmm.
you're, well, as you should, we're human beings, but he has no ego whatsoever, and
Mm.
he truly just wants to see people do better, and that's just it's amazing.
Yeah, I
And he's
remember
funny, and he's funny too.
there was one time. Well, both of those two have like a dry sense of humor,
Mhm.
and I remember I think we were at lunch or something, and Steve's like, because we were coaching at one of the seminars, and Steve's like, "Man, I feel like I got so much to learn about strength still." And I was like, "What? Don't say that. If you say that, how much do I have to learn about strength?"
You set that bar way too high.
And we were hanging. It was me and Casey and
Hmm.
Goggins, and Casey's got a bubble butt. So like we passed like some black girls and they commented and Steve's like, "Hey, what the hell?" Or like I don't even remember what he said, but it was just so funny and like Casey's face actually turned red. It was just so like I didn't even expect it. It just threw me off and it was so funny. Yeah, I think there's so many there's powerlifting's interesting. I think there's something in life about pushing yourself as hard as you can. And win, lose, or draw, I think you learn something from that. And so I think that's the reason why there's so many of these huge, strong, scary guys that are just cool as hell. Like they're just comfortable with who they are and they're good people and they just want to help other people. And I mean, I've never seen Steve or Ed refuse a question, refuse a picture, refuse an autograph, refuse a question. Like, and you're like, that's pretty awesome that this guy can be this outstanding at what they do. And I mean, fuck, Goggins, first guy to do 1,100 pounds. He's got tons of huge deadlifts.
Hmm.
And if you search hard enough, and I have this somewhere, Goggins coming out and shooting off his M16.
Yep. It was the deadliest deadlift or something
Yes,
like the deadliest lift or something like that. That's where he came out shooting his gun, and then I think John Inzer deadlifted with those pyrotechnics behind
yes,
him.
yeah.
That was crazy.
I love teasing
Mhm.
Steve about that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're cool guys. There's so many cool guys. I think we were lucky to be on the elite FTS team and
Mhm.
all the good guys that came through there.
Yeah, I kind of regret my time on Elite FTS only because not because I was on it. Like that was one of my one of my biggest goals in life was to be sponsored by them, and I was sponsored by them, and it was my dream come true to be sponsored by Elite FTS. But again, with that like inferiority complex of like knowledge, every time I went to learn to train or something like that, I was surrounded by like 12 alpha males, and everybody's way was the only way. Like everybody's way was the only way, and everybody is like talking over loud. So it was just being around all these giants to where their way was the only way, and I just curled up. Like I was so shy and scared in social settings. So I didn't absorb, I didn't take advantage of it. You know what I mean? Like I spent the whole time being intimidated when I was there. You know what I mean? And I didn't take away from it everything I could have. So that's my regret. Um, 'Cause like Jeremy Frey was somebody who I I emulated Jeremy Frey. Like the beard, the mohawk, the tattoos. Like I emulated Jeremy Frey, and he was gonna help me with my bench in a shirt. And there's one thing that he could have tried to get me to do that I knew for a fact didn't work. And what do you think he wanted me to do? That one thing that I knew for a fact didn't work. Like he wanted me to tuck my elbows as hard as I could, like from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I've tried this in the past. It doesn't work. I get handcuffed immediately. And he was trying to get me to do it, and I was giving it an honest effort, but I quit doing it, and I had said it didn't work, but he got so mad at me. Like he got so mad. Like he was so upset that I was not taking his advice. And that just kind of like killed me because like this guy was like my idol. And then now I just like disappointed him. And I just want to be like, dude, there was one thing that you could have told me to do that I knew didn't work, and you told me to do it. And I was just like, God damn it. So yeah.
I see. I don't think I was ever like that.
No, you just really wanted me to bench with my feet out.
Well, yeah.
But I would, but
I
I
mean, but that's
never,
the kind
I
of
never,
that's
I
the kind
never
of
felt
thing
like,
where, for me, that's the kind of thing where like, even if you don't want to do it, like, dude, just give me a try, and if you don't like it or it doesn't work, then we can move on to something else.
I never felt like I disappointed you, like the way I felt like, I was just like, this is what Chad wants me to do, and I tried it. It's not like I tried it in the past and it was like, I know this doesn't work. It was like I gave it a legitimate shot and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't clicking for me, and I just and I went on myself to figure out my bench. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
figured out that I'm a tucker. Like I tuck on a bench. You know what I mean? So
Well,
I figured it out.
the funny part of that is like when I was and I usually was like the head of my group,
Yep.
and I always told everybody, I'm like, dude, I tried to get people to come in, the other coaches. I wanted them to coach. I wanted these people to see that there's different ways, because
Hmm.
like I am the tuck from the very beginning. I loved to tuck from the beginning till I tore my tricep. Then I could no longer do that. But at the same time, I'm tucking all the time. You know, Carpenter and Metal Militia is doing elbows out into a tuck. How can I
Hmm.
possibly say that that doesn't work? Like, they had tons of unbelievable bench pressers.
Yeah.
You know, so like,
Yep.
and this is one of the funny things I love about strength, and about how if somebody tells me they know, I'm like, oh, you don't know. You obviously don't know. Like, because everybody does shit different.
Yeah.
Like, you can go, Chad, I love linear periodization. Fuck you, linear periodization sucks. The GOAT did
Mhm.
linear periodization this whole time. So how the fuck can I say it doesn't work?
Yep.
Like, you'd be an idiot to say that. And then look at all the I think your squat should start by pushing the hips back. This is the way little babies start doing it and moving. It's what I believe. Lots of guys have went narrow and bend their knees first and put up huge ass squats. So
Mhm.
how can I possibly say, no, this way's horrible, it doesn't work? I mean, at best, I can go, listen, here's what I've had experience with. Here's people I've coached. Here's what worked for me. Here's what worked the best. Let me talk to you and see what you like to do. Can we try this? And if it doesn't work, okay, there's other things we can do.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's the best approach, because you can't say, I can say what I like, but maybe if you don't like it, and especially if it completely screws your brain up, it's not going to work anyway. So
Mhm.
I'm always amazed how people are like, this is it, this is the way it is. And
Mhm.
I'm like, but for everything you tell me, I can point out a top lifter that did the opposite.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I'm always
And
amazed when people are like, this is it.
I didn't have the well, and I didn't have the courage to say that at
Mm-hmm.
my time in Elite FTS, because I had an opinion. You know, I had things that I did differently than other people that worked for me or like worked for people I knew, but I just didn't have that. I didn't have that confidence to say that. You know what I mean? I just reverted to high school Marshall that just shut up and stayed on the wall.
Yeah,
Stayed on
and
the
I mean,
wall.
there's also times too where if you go, okay, at the bottom of the press, you're in the perfect position. You got there differently than I get there, but you're where I want you to be. So how important is that portion of it? You know, is it okay? Like, I mean, I can't say that there's one perfect technique.
Mm.
I can't say there's one perfect program. I can't say there's one perfect exercise. And that's hard for me because I am a control freak. Like, coming to that conclusion and going, listen, Chad, no matter how much you know, there's always multiple ways to do it. Like,
Mhm.
that kind of part of me, that sucks. For the other part of me, I go, challenge accepted. I'm going to figure out how to understand this.
I welcome it because that means you have more tools. That
Yes.
makes you a
Yeah.
better it makes you a better coach. The more tools you have, the better coach you are.
And say like when I tore my tricep, one of the reasons I couldn't start tucked as well, that tricep just was not as strong. Like, I just ripped through the muscle. There wasn't as much muscle there. So I'm like, okay, if I do this, that's allowing me to pull in my outer head so I can still manage. And if I had been going, that's wrong, you can't do that, that's wrong, you can't do that, I wouldn't have been open to even trying it at that
Mhm.
point.
And I should probably uh, say that I wasn't upset with the guys at Elite FTS. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, I'm not saying they're wrong or my time there was unpleasant. It's just my personality didn't, my personality didn't mix with all like the alpha males, you know what I mean? Like there's just everybody was an alpha there. And I think you won't disagree with that, you know what I mean?
Oh, there's a lot of alpha males there, yeah.
Yeah. And whenever there's an alpha male in the room, I get quiet. You know what I mean? Like they just, okay, whatever. You can run the show. I'm okay.
Even like I went back, I hadn't been there, and I went back for one of them, and Dave put me in the biggest full gear highest group, mostly because I think he likes it when I get pissed and start yelling at people. uh, but I guess Joey had been
The
running
nasty
that
group.
group.
The nasty group. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
everybody's like, dude, Joey's gonna be pissed off. I go, fuck Joey, fuck off. And then like the next one we came and he was there, and it was like, no, I'm still the head of this group. And like we get along great. I think he's I can
The
see because
character.
he has that East Coast kind of mentality where some people are like, what an ass. Like I think I get along with him. I like him. So it's just that attitude. But yeah,
He's just
there's
he's just a
definitely a
flavor.
lot of alpha
Yeah.
in that room.
Yeah. And I never talked to Dave as much because of that. And I fucking regret that so much. Like I just I it was just a blown opportunity, you
Yeah.
know. And um I'm grateful that Dave still anytime I can text Dave and he'll respond to me. I can email Dave, I can call Dave and he'll so that's just to me that's just awesome. He's that kind of person.
Hmm. Yeah, Dave's a good dude. He was definitely an interesting person in my career, and I give him and Elite FTS a lot of credit for what I did because he's the one that got me started on the right path. But at the same point, I'm not. I'm kind of a control freak. Like I never wanted a full time coach. I never wanted. Like I wanted to do my thing. When Louis tried to get my dad to get me to move to West Side, I'm like, Dad, no, that's not me. I need to be in charge. I need to do this. And so Dave was like this great mentor that I could ask questions. And I still love going out to do podcasts out there. And I just love talking to him because I know I'm usually grinning as soon as I sit down because I know
Mhm.
Dave's going to test me. Like Dave's going to ask me questions that make me think, and I love thinking. So like he's no matter what I say, he's gonna devil's advocate. He's gonna throw an opposite thing into the wrench just to get my brain going. And I love doing that. I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a lot to do with like the first. I was talking about this the other day. I go, it's funny because the first seminar I went to was over in California with Dave, and there was probably 50 people there. Why am I the only one of those 50 people that actually became a successful powerlifter? We all learned the same stuff. And as soon as our next meets I went to, I go, hey, how come you guys aren't doing the shit Dave taught you? I don't work.
Mhm.
Like, how do you know? Like, how long did you do it? Like a week?
It circles back to what you said at the very beginning. They have to be invested. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Dave was just a GPS. He showed you the way, but you still had to drive it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I should probably Freya's been bugging me to go eat. Um,
Yes.
but I did just want to say like I really appreciate people like you, Dave Tate, Andrew Locke, Justin Harris, Trevor Jaffe, Seth Alvesworth, the late John Meadows. You are people who will help me, will answer a question that you provide information without expecting anything in return. And I'm so appreciative of that Dave was talking on a podcast about how we're all standing in fields that were planted before us, that were planted before that person before them, and or that person before then. And what you do is you don't just strip that field and lay fucking concrete. You you take care of that field so the person that comes after you has a field to be in. Don't be one of those motherfuckers that lays concrete, just takes from it and lays concrete. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's not live, learn, pass on. And all of the people that I just mentioned, I messaged them, emailed, whatever, and they've given me responses that were 10 times more than I could have ever wanted. And it was just, I'm really appreciative for people like that and people like you. It just makes the sport better, it makes the world better.
I agree. So, where are you guys in South Dakota?
North Dakota, Fargo, North
North
Dakota.
Dakota. Fargo.
Mhm,
I got to come
mhm.
see you just so I could say I went to Fargo.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to.
You have
Absolutely more.
so you have Frozen Barbell up there. So
Yep.
like I would highly, as much as I'll take on online clients, like speaking of Goggins, like if I know someone that's somewhere near Goggins and they're trying to online with me, I'm like, dude, really just go see Steve. And if somebody from Fargo messaged me to online train them, I'd be like, dude, just go talk to Marshall, man.
I appreciate that. That's
Like
awesome.
I think I can do a good job, but it's still online, and I would totally trust somebody training with you.
Mhm.
Like, so if people want to get a hold of you, do you guys do you have a Frozen Barbell website or just off the Instagram? Is that probably the best place? Or
The
because you
best
the
way
funny
would
thing
be,
about you is your gym too is you're creating a really cool atmosphere. Like I've been
Mhm,
to a couple competitions where a lot of your people are there, and maybe
mhm,
only a couple are lifting, but a lot of people show up to help. And I think you have. I think the old days when we had these great team gyms,
mhm.
I don't see that as much anymore.
Well, that's what I came up in. That's what you came up in.
Mm-hmm.
We came up in club gyms where there was no payment. Your payment was your commitment to the gym.
Yeah,
You are committed to those people on the gym at our gym. It's the first rule is you are here for the crew and the crew is here for you. The second rule is learn rule number one.
yeah.
So that's the most important thing at the gym. It's like you are here for everybody else, but everybody else is here for you.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we go to meets, basically the whole crew goes. Whoever has a meet, pretty much everybody goes to it. You know what I mean? Because it it takes a village to raise a
Yeah.
child. You know what I mean? Like it does. And I I love the fact that I have a club gym. We may only have like 7 or 8 lifters, but I don't want any more than that if people aren't committed to the club mentality. You know what I mean? So
I'd rather have few that are dedicated to it than a bunch that don't give a shit.
I like I said, I've almost wanted to say this to some people, like I'm not trying to make friends. I want reliable people that come to the gym. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking for friendships. I'm looking for reliable people that I can count on, that everybody else can count on. I mean, that kind of now when I say it, it sounds kind of cold, but in regards to my gym, that's what I'm looking for. I mean, if we're talking about life, obviously I would like to have more friends. I don't
But
have that many, but
for
but like
somebody who looks at things the way I do, that doesn't sound cold at all. And to me, that sounds the way like it should be. If you
yeah,
come and you show everyone respect, you're gonna be
yeah,
friends, if not family. But it's gonna
yeah.
happen organically because it's gonna start out of that respect and doing a good job and being there to help other people and letting them help you.
Mhm.
So it's actually going to
Absolutely.
be a stronger tie and a stronger relationship in the end.
And that's what I came up with, and I miss it. Like there was gyms I lifted at in the past that were that family strong knit, 6, 7 people. That I miss that. I just it's the good old days. I hate saying that, but I wish you knew when you were in the good old days. I wish it didn't. I wish you knew you were in it while you're in it. It sucks that it has to be like 20 years later, like, oh, those were the good old days. Like I didn't even
Yeah.
know it. Like I wish I knew like this is the good old days. You know what I mean? Like I take advantage.
Well, I guess you got to live in the present as much as you can and make every moment the best it can be.
Yeah.
All right,
Mhm.
Marshall. I'm going to hit my little outro. You're always welcome to me on again. I think we could probably keep talking right now, but I got to eat. You got to eat. And I got to squeeze a bike
I
ride in
I,
before the sun goes down.
I would 100%. Like honestly, I'm so happy that I was asked to be on here. Like I feel like I have a voice. I feel like I have something to say. I feel like I have value, and something like this,
I
I
think you
just
do.
really
That's why I
appreciate it.
asked you to be on.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, sir. Till next time.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good weekend.
Thanks for listening to the Courage Barbell Unlimited podcast. For more information, please visit couragebarbell.com. Until next time.